Yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be getting the meeting started here in just a couple minutes, so if you just bear with us.
Close enough.
All right. Good evening and welcome to the Planning and Zoning meeting for the City of Smyrna. Today is Monday, August 10th, 2015. It's 6 p.m. and this meeting is called to order. At this time, I'd like to ask that all electronic devices be turned off as they interfere with our recording equipment. For those of you joining us for the first time, this meeting is conducted much like a council meeting. As such, each application will include a presentation from city staff, followed by a question and answer session between staff and the board. Following staff's presentation, we'll have the applicant present their proposal and answer any questions from the board. Once all the questions have been satisfied, we'll then have an opportunity for anyone in attendance that would like to come forward and speak in favor of or opposition to the application. We ask that you come forward one at a time, state your name and address for the record, and sign the sign-in sheet at the podium. And please direct all your comments to the board. All right, the first item on the agenda is Z15-014. It's the approval of a zoning amendment to modify the currently approved site plan and building elevations at it's 12.62 acres at land lot 559. This is the northeast corner intersection of Atlanta Road and Spring Road. Mr. Sedrith, background.
Thank you, Chairman, for that. Let me start here by just saying the applicant is Halpern Enterprise. Y'all have seen this request in the past. Just to remind you all that during 2013, this came through the process for another owner. That was Branch Properties. That request ultimately went through council and was denied. Lawsuits occurred after that, and the owner of the property ultimately sold it to Halpern Enterprises. As part of that original approval, which goes all the way back to 2008, there were apartments approved and retail approved at that time. And so what this request is about is to change basically the location and reduce the intensity in terms of the retail aspect associated with the original 2008 plan. Again, this is a mixed-use conditional existing zoning. The zoning will continue to be a mixed-use conditional. It will just have a different plan attached to it. You know, in November 2007, the property was rezoned from a general commercial and light industrial use to a mixed-use zoning with a series of conditions placed on that. That approval was known as Jonquil Village, consisted of 188,000 square feet of commercial, 29,000 square feet of office, and 300 residential condominium luxury apartment units and 6 buildings over an underground parking deck. The Urban Design Commission in March of 2008 approved the architectural plans for that. And as a reminder, this was also a TAD, tax allocation district project, so there was a public-private partnership because that project was built over a parking garage. Ultimately, then another request came in, which I mentioned to start off with, in 2013, that was turned down by a vote of 4-3 by council. There is a minimum 12-month wait between a denial and somebody coming back again on the same piece of property. We've obviously are well beyond the 12-month period on that. The current zoning proposal is still a mixed use, but it is not a vertical mixed use. It is more of a pod mixed use, meaning that they're side by side, for approximately 65,000 square feet of retail space and 290, again, luxury apartment units and an associated parking garage that's not underneath but beside the building. Zoning map is on the left. That classification, the color there is representative of a mixed-use category. The one on the right is our future development map, also known as our future land use or part of our comprehensive plan, and that indeed also deals with it being a type of mixed use. This is the currently approved site plan that I had referenced earlier. The building that's in the upper right corner, the big square there, that was proposed for a grocery store. And then the other buildings there were vertically integrated with offices, commercial, and apartments on that. At the corner, you also had buildings there as well as a fountain kind of feature. These are the approved elevations. This is the proposed site plan. The grocery store is still part of this plan. It has been relocated off of the Spring Road side and put more towards the middle, and its front door is actually oriented more towards city-owned property where Aunt Fanny's Cabin sits, and then you have the parking field in front of that. So that has been moved from the Spring Road side to the Atlanta Road side. On the Spring Road side, you have rental apartment units, luxury rental that is proposed there with a parking garage on one end that's designated. Still at the corner, you do have commercial buildings and a open air feature at that corner to help you look into the property and designate that it's Jonquil as well. Up in the far left corner, you have another structure which is proposed for a restaurant. These are the perspectives and renderings that we have been given. The view that you have on the top is looking into the site from the corner of Atlanta Road and Spring Road. The view on the bottom is actually off Atlanta Road at the intersection of Church Road. Although a light is not illustrated there, that intersection will contain a traffic light. So what they are trying to illustrate is what you would see if you were at that new intersection, that you would see the grocery store, and then behind that you would see the very top portions of the multifamily development. Just another perspective, a little bit closer up, of the grocery store and the apartment building and parking garage behind it. The one on the lower is actually taken inside at the corner from the parking lot looking back to the buildings. Again, just some more elevations of the grocery store, the four sides of it. And then the sides associated with the multifamily building. These buildings are the ones that would be at the corner. They are on the site plan designated as Retail Building A and Retail Building B. And this is B. Then the restaurant building that would be in that would be the farthest northern part of that site. Different walls and signs that are proposed for the project. Now, staff's recommendation is for approval with conditions. Again, whatever conditions are put on tonight, if there is an approval, they would replace and supersede the other stipulations that occurred there. This is a mixed-use project, and it has to be in substantial conformity with the zoning plan that was submitted dated August 6th. The reason that the next sentence is in red has to do with a decision by the Urban Design Commission that I will talk about shortly, and I will bring you back to this slide. Again, the building elevations would be tied to the ones that you have seen, plus whatever additional requirements are added. The minimum floor area would have to be 900 square feet. Number 6 is in red. Again, that has to do with a recommendation with the Urban Design Commission. This was a suggestion by staff dealing with the plaza area at the intersection of Atlanta and Spring Road. This is a standard condition we always have, that you have to have a master protective covenants has to be in place before we will issue the first building permit. And again, that association has to have architectural design regulations within it. Third-party management company has to manage the day-to-day operations of that association. Retention pond, detention pond is proposed there. It would be in the, if you remember the site plan, it would be in the upper right corner off of Spring Road. All utilities have to be underground. Developers responsible for all water and sewer improvements, such as city water main. Developers also responsible for any traffic improvements that are deemed necessary by the city or the county, such as the access drive on Spring Road is limited to right in, right out. The completion of the Spring Road 10-foot multi-use trail from the existing pedestrian bridge to Atlanta Road has to be completed and match what's already along Atlanta. Southern access drive on Atlanta Road shall be right in, right out as well. The applicant's responsible for the installation of the traffic signal. I referenced that at Church Street. That is their responsibility in accordance with the Atlanta Road Trail and Streetscape project that is there, so that the existing stuff that you see will continue in terms of pavers and crosswalks in the road. The northern access drive, as I said, shall be signalized. Has to be approved by our city engineer. Right now, staff is asking for the dedication of enough right-of-way along Atlanta Road to get the existing trail entirely onto public right-of-way. The developer shall provide both pedestrian and vehicular interparcel access with the city-owned property. That's the Aunt Fanny's property at the very northern end. A standard condition about no debris can be buried. Standard condition about decorative street lights used within the project. Obviously, another standard condition about the tree ordinance has to be followed, as well as all landscape plans. The yards have to be sodded. The entrance signs again, have to be in conformity with what I had shown you earlier. They need to have a shared parking agreement so that parking can move throughout the entire site appropriately. All the air conditioning units and other utilities have to be totally screened from view. Landscaping has to be done and maintained by a professional third party. We talk about sidewalks. Concrete sidewalks can be used up around the buildings. We are asking the developer to provide a bike sharing station. There has been discussion, I know that you're all aware of that the city has entered into a bike sharing agreement, and we are encouraging one of the locations to occur here. All the non-residential components would contain a maximum of 65,000 square feet, which is basically the grocery store, the restaurant, and then the retail uses that are at the corner. There's an issue about dumpsters, standard condition about how it's to be positioned and what it's to look like. Another standard condition about no outside paging systems, as well as there are certain uses that should be prohibited. We have done this technique in the past. I guess the latest one that you all may be familiar with, at least most of you, would be Columbia property at the east-west connector. This list was carried forward from that development. Those are the remaining uses that would be prohibited. Maximum number shall not exceed 290 Class A amenitized multifamily units, and 100% of the units have to be constructed so that they have the ability to be turned into condominium units in the event future conditions allow such. All apartments have to be maintained in a first Class A manner. And under that Class A manner, when we did the previous branch request, which was the 2013 request, we also attached an issue about interior finishes to establish at least a minimum. And they're outlined there about what it should be to help raise the bar on all of that. And then that the mixture is 65% one bedrooms, 35% two bedrooms, and 5% three bedrooms. I believe the petitioners have asked that that be an approximate amount and not an exact amount. From a staff point of view, that's fine. That it needs to approach the 65%. Obviously, if it comes in and it's 63 or 62 or whatever, then that would be deemed acceptable as well. Y'all were handed a piece of paper earlier about the Urban Design Commission recommendation. That's what is on the screen now. That board met this afternoon. They too tabled their first look at this for the very same reasons that y'all tabled it last month. Additional information was provided. They called a special meeting, and it happened to be today. So normally you don't have the Urban Design Commission's recommendation in front of you. It normally occurs after your recommendation. But in this case, because it occurred today, I felt it was appropriate to let you know what they've said on this. And again, as I said, there's 3 recommendations going to council, one from staff, one from y'all, and one from the Urban Design Commission. They may say something differently. They may be different, and council will have to rectify those differences if they're substantial. The Urban Design Commission recommended approval of the plan from the design point of view. Again, this was not They don't have any jurisdiction in the zoning aspects of this or the land use portion of this. They're totally a design body. So they approved it with the recommendation about the sidewalks that connect to the grocery store and the commercial buildings, that they shall have pavers that match. Again, concrete is up at the building, but to get you to those points, they will have to be pavers. The plan that you have tonight showed a tower feature, but there was only one tower. The board approved a second tower feature that should be on the side of the building that is in essence facing Atlanta Road. There was also some additional conditions they added regarding brick accent columns being added to the west, south, and east elevations. There was an attachment outlining those. And that the architectural features on the parking side of the building be carried along the retail side on the east side, as well on and the north side of Building A and the east side of Building B. And then 25% EFS. We can't have more than 25% EFS on any of the buildings on that, and that also rolls to the restaurant. It's not a requirement that you attach these with your recommendation, but you have the right, if you choose, to say, yeah, we want to make that part of the zoning conditions as well. But I felt like it was appropriate to let you know what a corresponding body has recommended for that. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions, Mr. Sudworth? Mr. Campo?
Ken, I have just one question to clarify. You're saying in 2008 it was approved for 165,000 square feet of retail and commercial space, and approximately 300 apartments were approved for this 13-acre Jonquil Plaza site. Is that correct?
That's correct. And actually, on the dates, just so that we're not, it was a combination of council approving in 2007 and then urban design approving in 2008.
Okay.
So that's that.
Well, my question is this, then tonight, primarily what we're doing is we're looking at a refinement of the plan that was approved in 2007-8.
Yes.
Correct?
That's
Okay.
correct.
Any other questions? All right, Ken, I got a couple questions here.
And Joel, before you ask that, I apologize for the long presentation, but I felt it was important to let you know all the information that staff had, as well as to go through each one of those in a fairly quick fashion, because there are a lot of conditions attached to this, but that's sort of a normal process that y'all, that's what we do on that. So.
I appreciate your time. Did the applicant agree to the recommendations at the UDC to carry them forward, or?
The sheet that you have was the conditions that UDC came up with and recommended that did have the support of the applicant. Yes.
It did?
Yes.
Okay. And a continuation of what Mr. Campo said. So to be clear, if Halpern Enterprises wanted to implement the 2007-2008, the currently approved site plan, which would consist of approximately 165,000 square feet of retail and 300 apartment units, what would they bring that before this body?
No, they would submit. They would start the review process with staff, and
they would go into plan review and start pulling permits and start construction.
Absolutely.
So this is not about 290 or 300 apartments tonight. This is about modifying this plan, as I understand it, a less dense project than is already approved for this 12-acre site.
That's correct.
Any other questions for Mr. Sudreth? Okay. Thank you. At this time, we'd like to have the applicant come forward. Good evening.
Evening. Maybe the site plan would probably be if we'll put the site plan up is what we're going to do, that'd be the easiest thing to reference and given all the slides.
Don't forget, Mr. Moore, to introduce yourself.
Certainly, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think that's fine. Good.
Oh, thank you.
And for the record, I'm Kevin Moore. I'm here on behalf of the owner and applicant, which is Halpern Enterprises, for this just over 12-acre site that I know each one of us is very familiar with, the Jonquil site. I think Ken did an excellent job of reviewing the application materials, certainly with an application or a project of this magnitude, of this visibility, being located central to downtown Smyrna, and the improvements that have been made over a great number of years. It's certainly a critical project, a highly visible project, and at least from my perspective, thankful that Halpern Enterprises is now the one that's going to hopefully bring this forward. Halpern Enterprises, as you know, is somebody that you know that as it relates to Belmont and the project that has occurred there, that when Halpern brought that forward over a number of years, to bring that forward, that they have delivered and continued to deliver on exactly what they promised you as a planning commission and the city council, and that project is well under its way now and continues to look great. So certainly their investment in the city, Halpern Enterprises' investment in the city cannot be questioned, and their ability to perform and deliver on what is a outstanding and quality project likewise, at least from my standpoint, hopefully cannot be questioned as well. And I think you made an excellent point. It was one of the points I was going to make, and that is what is before you is a site plan amendment. That's what's before you. In 07 and 08, when the council approved the rezoning for Jonquil at that time, it included all of those elements. It included 300 apartments. It included 165,000 square feet of retail and office space at this location, and it included it over what was an underground parking structure. But what it also included was public money, a significant investment of TAD money to be able to develop the infrastructure needed for that type of development. All of us have sat here and watched what's happened since that time, since 07 and 08 with the Jonquil site. And the economy, we don't have to go into great detail to know that the economy affected that site and left it where it is today. That prior plan included a grocery store. That prior plan included apartments, 300 of them. That prior plan also included about 100,000 square feet of retail and office. But this project that's proposed for you today is one that doesn't include TAD dollars. It doesn't include public investment. It doesn't include public money. This project is the capital of Halpern Enterprises, and I think that's significant. And what I also think is very significant and certainly can't be understated is that if you looked at the prior application from 2013, it did not include a grocery store. It took a lot of effort, a lot of work, a lot of diligence, a lot of perseverance on behalf of those at Halpern Enterprises to bring a grocery store back to this site, which we think is quite an achievement, especially given the history. Grocery stores sometimes, once jilted, once it doesn't work out, they don't come back. But they were able to, with their work and their due diligence, to bring a grocery store back to this site, which would be wonderful for downtown Smyrna, which would be wonderful for the community and for this location and for this particular spot to have a grocery store at this location. And I think that, again, cannot go unsaid or understated. The site plan that you see before you, yes, is somewhat different, but it's different for the reasons I stated above. The site plan, in terms of its uses, those uses have already been approved, and that's how it's zoned today. But what is being brought forward for you today is a site plan that does incorporate a high-end Class A multifamily portion of the development for a maximum of 290 units. The elevations and designs for that, I think, look spectacular, how they're tying that in to Spring Road, where you have a parking structure on that site plan. If you'll see at the bottom right, the kind of the brown or tan is the multifamily building. You'll see that there's what looks to be a surface parking lot tucked in, because this is a bird's eye view. That's actually the parking structure. So it's well hidden from the view of Spring Road and even from Atlanta Road because of its location to the rear of the grocery store. Again, it also is hidden. So it's provided its own place on this site plan that basically hides it from view from Spring Road and from Atlanta Road. Again, some of the other important features that you saw with the prior already approved plan is at the intersection of Spring Road and Atlanta Road. Again, here you have a plaza type feature that will be employed to set this off, and it's important for Halpern Enterprises to set this off and to make it a point of interest, a place to be, and introduce you to downtown Smyrna coming in from Spring Road or from Atlanta Road. And that plaza entry feature at the corner will do just that. In addition, you see that there's about 15,000 square foot of what I call street level or street front retail that's provided at that intersection as well. That'll fit in nicely. It's a street level type of retail which fits in very, very nicely with the retail that's incorporated here on this side of Atlanta Road with downtown Smyrna. So from a perspective standpoint, it will flow. It will look, the best way to say it is it will look right from a flow and standpoint of that arrangement along Atlanta Road, and then with the grocery store located in the central portion of the site. And lastly, with the restaurant at the top, there's a restaurant site that will also be incorporated there, a standalone restaurant pad. Again, this proposal and the design elevations, I think it's very important, and it actually benefits you as a planning commission that the Urban UDC has already reviewed this and is recommending approval, and Ken was able to note that and provide you with their list of recommendations. And I think that's very important. Their job is design. They don't focus on land use. They focus on design. I think that's very helpful for you as a planning commission, and hopefully it's something that you agree with as well as a planning commission as part of your recommendation. Also, you'll note, and Ken did a good job of noting that as it relates to the multifamily unit mix, there may be slight variations. Instead of dead on 65% one bedroom, 35% two bedroom, and 5% three bedroom. But what that's showing you is from a unit mix, and why we think that's critical, not only that it be approximate, but it shows you what market that Wood Partners is going after with this multifamily project at this location. They're going after a market that will consist primarily of one bedroom, meaning millennials, meaning young professionals that will and can't wait to be in this location, given all that it connects with and connects to, both from a pedestrian standpoint and otherwise, in a very an outstanding location. So you'll have their presence here as well, and I think that's also important because once again you have Halpern and Wood Partners joining up as they have at Belmont, and they've been very successful there. And again, both of those entities are delivering on exactly what they promised. With that, I would like to note that the staff recommendations, it's a whole litany of and quite the laundry list of conditions. We are in agreement, well, I would say, with the vast majority of those staff recommendations. The substantive issues that are covered in those staff recommendations, we're in agreement with. There are some slight differences of opinion as to some of the language in a couple of them, but those are points we feel that can be better addressed between now and hopefully the City Council meeting next week, rather than go through a laundry list of our own of slight changes or points to bring up before this commission. We're certainly more than happy to go through that in detail with you, but in the interest of time, those are points that are much more down in the weeds on a technical level that we feel like we can resolve between now and then. But we certainly stand here ready to answer any of your questions that you may have. Principals with Halpern Enterprises, but Jack Halpern, Steve West as well, who's been the basically bird dogging this project all along, as he did with Belmont, as well as our professional consultants are here, and all of us are stand ready to answer any questions you might have on any level of detail that you might require or request. And with that, we would respectfully request your recommendation to the City Council for approval. We think this is an outstanding project. We think it's one that's desperately needed at this site, and we can finally have our grocery store downtown Smyrna with a successful project that ties into all the elements that are necessary at this location. So with that, we appreciate you here time for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Any questions for Mr. Moore or anybody with Halpern Enterprises at this time? All right, we may get you to come back up and answer some questions here in the future.
Be happy to. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, this is a public hearing. At this time, we'd like to ask if anyone in attendance would like to speak in favor of or opposition to the application. We did have a sign-in sheet out at the back. Hopefully got an opportunity to sign in. But if you would come forward at this time. One at a time, please. We're not going to do it. We don't swear in here, so we would just ask you to tell the truth. Good evening.
Good evening, panel, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Howard Martin. I'm a 51-year resident of Smyrna. I live in the neighborhood down on Lee Street and have been in that area, like I said, for 51 years. I'm a man of few words. I'll just get to the meat of it. We don't need any more apartments. Your tax-paying money and my tax-paying money has been spent over the last several years getting rid of the commons, getting rid of Hickory Lakes, a drug, crime-infested area. And if these apartments don't sell, you know what's going to happen. They're going to sit there, and then we're going to have to drop the prices. You know, the Publix is fine. The presentation is fine. We got a Publix down on South Cobb Drive. We got a Publix down on Paces Ferry. We don't need another grocery store. We got a nice Kroger right over here on South Cobb Drive. We have you don't need to get cold feet on voting this down. You need to stand up and be counted, every one of you, because you pay taxes just like I do. The traffic problem that you're going to create on this corner, nothing I don't think I couldn't hear because they were talking away from me. Tractor trailer trucks coming in and out this area here. That's not to mention the traffic, 2 cars per family on average coming in and out this. We've already got a congestion at Atlanta Road. When 75 is messed up, it comes right up from 285. They come right through Smyrna, going to Marietta. This decision that you make tonight is going to not only impact my area, it's going to impact the whole city of Smyrna. And as I've stated, we don't need apartments. Hargrove Road years ago was done away with, and look what they put over there. Apartments breed crime. I was in the construction business for 34 years, and I was in and out apartments all that 34 years, and I have seen apartments deteriorate, not 5 years, not 10 years down the road. They can go down in a hurry. And if you don't sell them, Mr. Halpern, all due respect to him, he's in business to make money. And we hear all about the retail. We were promised that with Market Village. Where do you people right here go shop? You don't go to Market Village because there's no retail stores there. I and my wife go to Marietta. We go to Town Center. We go to Austell. What kind of retail are we going to have here? We're being promised retail. We're being promised restaurants. Other than Atkins Park and some of the other restaurants there on Market Village, which is not my kind of restaurant. What kind of restaurants we gonna have? What kind of business we gonna have? What kind of retail? I don't hear any names. Are we gonna have a Target? Are we gonna have a Kohl's? Are we gonna have a Macy's? What kind of retail are we gonna have? First thing you know, there'll be a liquor store, then there'll be some fast food restaurant. What are we gonna have? You people have got a job to do tonight. And I urge you to turn down these apartments. We don't need them. I won't take up any more of your time. I hope you hadn't already made your decision. And all due respect to this gentleman back here, I'm fine with Belmont Hills. I'm not fine with Jonquil, because when they built that corridor down Concord Road, you're squeezing the people out in Forest Hills. We feel like we're being choked. And when you put this on the corner with all the traffic, try to come down through there at 5:30, or in the morning, 7:30. I appreciate your time, and I urge you as tax-paying citizens, each and every one of you, to stand your ground and turn this down, because we don't need apartments.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. All right, no applause, please. We don't have time for applause. We're going to let everybody speak that came here to speak. So if you would please hold your applause, I will hold my gavel. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you.
Please
I agree with the previous speaker.
Excuse me, sir. Please state your name and address for the record.
Alex Backery, Shawnee Trail, Smyrna.
Thank you.
Ward 6.
Thank you.
Right now, downtown, let's face reality. You look at it, you have 2 sandwich shops. You have 3 bars in Market Village. That is not downtown. There is no shopping downtown, as the previous speaker spoke. You look at downtown Marietta, Roswell, Kennesaw, there's shopping. For 50,000 people, we don't have a place to buy a pair of shoes in Smyrna. I go over to Galleria. We need shopping. The previous builders that were going to build in Jonquil were going to put apartments, and they were turned down. Now here comes another builder to put more apartments in the same principle. On only 13 acres, 290 apartments with a 45,000 square foot grocery store. I don't see where you're going to have much commercial. That was zoned for commercial way back, and it did very well. Unfortunately, it went down. But we need to keep it totally 100% commercial, especially shopping. The public relations lady for Smyrna in the water bill said in 2020 Smyrna will be the most populated city in Cobb County. What she should have said is Smyrna will be the largest city in Cobb County that has no shopping. I just feel tonight, and I agree with the previous speaker, this decision you make, after this Jonquil goes, there is no other space downtown for anything. It is totally established for the next 20, 30 years. This is where we've got to put the foot down here to say we have a downtown. I do not see it. And again, I don't go into Market Village other than grabbing a sandwich once in a while. But to see shopping along the East-West Connector, it's sad to see that Walmart was turned down from going into Belmont Hills, whether you like it or not, for taxes. That would have been a great move, but unfortunately the previous council groups turned it down. I'm angry at that. They're a solid company. Other places are doing very well with them, but that's past. But we've got to, again, see that we need shopping in Smyrna and businesses. And it should, again, stay 100% commercial. That's what it was zoned for. And to deviate from that is going to be a huge mistake. And speaking of that, the size of this diagrams that I see, if it had 4 or 5 other buildings comparable beside each other, I could see where it would blend in. That is going to be such an eyesore sticking out on that corner that would really obstruct a lot of people, let alone, I think, be an eyesore. And now you're saying you have a light that's going to come out to Church Road. Well, that means there's a light to go into Market Village, Church Street, and Atlanta Road, Spring, and Concord. 3 lights in about 75 yards. And again, I reiterate, the traffic is going to be unbelievable. And again, you have to blend in with downtown, but blend in with shops where people can take their kids and get shoes, clothes, or something. But apartments, you've got Belmont Hills now putting in over 200 apartments over there. Now you're going with over 290 here, over 500 apartments new and a stone's throw from each other. To me, is outrageous. We don't need more apartments in Smyrna. We need shopping and commercial. Look at all the empty stores over at Kroger, along at South Cobb Drive. People are not coming in here. Johns Creek and Woodstock have a moratorium on businesses waiting to open. They have no space for them. What are they doing right and we're doing wrong? But this is a big start here to let this stay as commercial and start on the right foot to get businesses back in Smyrna. There's too many empty stores here now. People are noticing it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Good evening.
My name is Randy Baker. I live at Hillsdale Condominiums. Did you say that the units going in are condominiums or apartments?
They are Ken, you want to answer that?
They're apartments that are built to condominium standards, so that if the market in the future allows for the lending of money for a conversion to condominiums, they will be able to do that. But they're going in as apartments.
Well, I was reading the, standards for the apartments that are going in there, and it's my opinion that these seem like very high-end apartments, and I think that you'll get, a nice, not criminal class of people if you have higher-end apartments. As far as the shopping is concerned, that's true. I mean, people don't shop at Market Village because there's no shopping. However, people do go out to eat at Market Village. And I think if there were nice restaurants at Jonquil, then people are going to go out to eat on one of them.
So, not to cut you off, but are you in favor of the application as it's presented?
Yes, I am. And I have to say, and, I disagree completely about the grocery store. I could jump for joy that they are going to put a grocery store there. And I agree that it's probably going to make the traffic worse. It'll slow everything down because people will be turning off of Spring, people will be turning off Atlanta Road. But I am willing to put up with a little more traffic for the convenience of having a grocery store close. And I am in favor of what's been presented tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Baker.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. All right.
Hi. My name is Sarah Spencer, and actually that's my husband, William, right there. We moved into Smyrna about 1.5 years ago from the Brookhaven area. And one of the reasons we moved out of Brookhaven is because of all of the apartment buildings that are going up everywhere. And the traffic is outrageous. And it's taken the charm of Brookhaven, the older homes that are around the golf course and so on. A lot of people are angry and they're moving. One of the things we loved about Smyrna was the potential for the growth, but also the charm. And we feel we're happy that something's going in here, but we feel that if you could bring the charm of like Vinings or even the townhomes that are down there by South City Kitchen or Muss & Turner and something like that, a Fresh Market and a Whole Foods would be great. I don't think we need another Publix. And I also agree that Apartments don't age well. I think they bring riffraff in, and I just don't think that that's something that's needed in downtown Smyrna. And I think we definitely need more shopping. We have no shopping here.
All right, Ms. Spencer, I had a question for you. You do realize that this is not about the apartments. This is actually a downzoning from the amount of apartments they're approved for.
Okay.
So they're approved for 300 units right now, as long as they agree to put in 165,000 square feet of retail. All right. They're proposing a much less dense property with 290 units instead of 300. So they have the approval. We're just talking about the amendment to the site plan. That's all we're really discussing here. They have the approval for apartments at this point.
Okay.
Okay, and the only reason, and I'm not to single you out at all. I really appreciate you coming, but for everybody here, this is not about 300 units going in. They have that approval based on the current zoning. It's about modifying the current plan. That's all this is.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Spencer.
Good evening to you. My name is Linda Gordon, and I live on Campbell Road and have for about 30 years, and have seen the difference of Smyrna. Some of it fantastic, some of it not so fantastic. And I knew that it had already been approved because that's what the two gentlemen had already said. However, I do believe that we do not have a village. We have restaurants. We don't have places for people to go after they eat. There is no even theater, even ballet, except for that little place that is in the market village for children. There are no arts that are there. So it's really not a place for people to mingle outside. There's not even an ice cream shop to speak of. There is one there, but it's really not anything that you can go afterwards and mingle around, go into a shop, go into a boutique, go into a place where it actually is a village. You know, I come from Australia, and I know what villages are like, and they offer a wide variety of things, not just the usual nail place, dry cleaners. I mean, they are so ubiquitous, so overbearing everywhere. Have something that can offer a retail space that means something. So if you're going to make it, Jonquil, an actual village area like the Market Village, which is not really a village, you would put in something that actually does mean something. Instead of restaurants, the same old, same old. You know, just to turn over a quick buck to get somebody to rent the space out. And yes, the apartments have already been approved, and I must have been asleep at that time, but I'm going to say my voice now. I don't like it. There was a moratorium on apartment building. I don't know why you need it. However, that's a done deal. It's over. But I just want you to know, as for my feelings, make it something that's substantial, not just the usual hey-ho. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gordon. All right. Oh, welcome.
Hey, Lindsay Chasen. I live on Northview Place in Smyrna. Actually just moved here about a year ago from inner city Atlanta. And I am 100% in support of what you guys are doing here, and just wanted to express my gratitude as somebody who really sees the potential that Smyrna has to become a live, work, play environment. Just this past weekend, my fiance and I were actually walking to the Smyrna Market Village. I think we were there at least 3 times. And what this potential development will bring is obviously something that excites both of us, and I look forward to what it's going to do. I just wanted to say thanks to Halpern, quite honestly, and call out that they're being really great stewards and citizens of Smyrna for us here by driving tax productive development and master planned improvements to our neighborhood. There's going to be a focus on walkability, on the ability to, again, live, work, play in your area. And as some people have mentioned and danced around, a lot of millennials are actually not buying right now. So having folks that are young up-and-comers that have money to spend, rental is absolutely key. So I think this is the right plan. And again, I do appreciate Halpern kind of dumbing down the amount of apartments that we have there. So 100% in support of it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Chasen, and welcome to Smyrna. Good evening and welcome.
Hi, my name is Sue Pesley, and I live over in Montclair. I just have one question about the plan, knowing the apartments are already approved. What type of traffic study was done with this planning to understand what a supermarket and apartments will bring into this area? I live right across the street, and just commuting in, I can tell you, I can hear the traffic in the morning. The rush hour has really increased a lot. So it's nothing against what's on the table right now, but just additional facts to underwrite what people can expect from traffic when this goes in. Maybe that's already been addressed, but I thought it was worth asking because I didn't think of it earlier.
We'll let staff answer that question when they get a chance, but that's an excellent question about this corner. And could you say your last name again, please?
It's Pesley, like Elvis without the R.
Well done. Thank you so much.
Hello.
Good evening.
Let me see if I can get this low enough. I'm Jean Snodgrass. I live on Shawnee Trail. And my position, I understand that ostensibly we're here for you to approve amendments. But I think my position, and the position of most of the people are here, is that we should be considering the entire development. I totally agree. If Halpern wants to come in, build an underground parking lot, build 300 luxury condos, which is how this was sold initially, and 188 square feet of retail space, then no more discussion. But what we're getting now is about 4 acres of parking lot, 300 not condos, but apartments that may be condos someday if the market's right. Now, right now, houses are selling very well here. Condos are selling very well here. There's nothing that says these wouldn't sell as condos. So, and I've read the impact statement. I think the numbers for the schools are wrong when you do these apartments. The Atlanta Regional Commission says that 29% of the population in the metro area is under the age of 20. The number they used here was 23%. I think the school impact is going to be more than you said. I think there's been a lot of dancing around with this mixed use designation to avoid having to come back and ask for zoning. Halpern builds great shopping centers. Why doesn't Halpern build as a shopping center? We would have a city center, and I hate to admit it, I agree with Alex. If you look at Marietta, there are shops there, there are restaurants there. People enjoy going there. And I think that's what we need to be working to. So you can consider this amendment, but I think there are real reasons to look at the whole zoning, to look at the entire area. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Ken, before we go much further, and come on up, the question from Ms. Pesley regarding the traffic study. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I'm going to ask Eric to step up to the mic if you don't.
Well, we'll do that. We'll take a few more questions, and then we'll do that. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Carol Main. I live on Vinings North Trail, and I've been a Smyrna resident and homeowner for approximately 20 years. So I have been blessed to watch Smyrna grow and develop into the great city it is. I personally do not like what is being proposed. I understand that you're saying that they could have 300 apartments. They've taken it down to 291. I don't consider a 9 apartment reduction to be significant. What I do see is they have taken a significant amount of the acreage because they made a decision to make the cheap way of building a parking deck. So instead of going underground and saving space for more retail, which is what the original plan was, they've said, hey, let's go cheap, let's build these apartments and take less retail. I am asking each one of you to stop and think about how much land is left in Smyrna, in land that was set for retail that has been taken away. Belmont, we lost retail land. We are losing land under this proposal with Jonquil. I'm asking that you stop and think about the services available to the citizens of Smyrna. Smyrna has taken great pride in the services they provide us. This current arrangement does not stand up to Smyrna standards. Please reject this, send them back, ask them to put more retail back in, and rethink how they're going to use the space for the apartments. As much as you talk about this being high-end luxury apartments, folks, those apartment buildings are parallel with an active railroad track. If you are a high-end renter, do you think you're going to want to rent there, or are you rather going to want to go to another place? So stop and think how the land is being used. I appreciate it. I appreciate the fact I can express my opinions, and I ask you please to seriously consider how they're using that land. And if how they're using that land follows true to what was committed to in 2008. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. May. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Rod Miller. I live on Millwood Trail in the Heritage of Vinings off of Atlanta Road. I just had a question concerning the proposed apartments, and forgive me if I missed this, but do we know what the proposed price points are for these luxury apartments? If we don't know, I'll be happy to wait for the answer if staff can come up.
We'll get that answered for you.
Okay. Thank you.
If it exists, guys, do you have it handy or?
We can. Joel, I would just ask the applicant instead of staff.
Okay. We'll let's give us a few minutes. We'll get the answer for you and we'll get it on the record. Good evening and welcome.
I am Mary Rose Barnes, 4756 Oakdale Road, Smyrna 30080. The site plan, the new site plan, dated August 6, was available only online today. I trust that I've not missed any substantial changes. It was frustrating not being able to finalize my comments until today. The applicant had a month to present a new plan. I have numerous concerns and questions involving this application. I agree with Mr. Moore about Halpern being the owner, but he's only one of the owners. City of Smyrna actually owns 2 parcels here. I'd be interested to know the outcome of the sale or the disposition of those 2 parcels. Will there be a land swap, sale, or other disposition? If the property is to be sold, what is the contract sale price? Since it is Smyrna property, I believe that those Smyrna citizens have a right to know the facts. Although the plan calls for 290 apartments, staff comments reference the need for the units to be built to condo standards, reflecting the concept that the home ownership is a higher and better use for the property. Neighbors should not have to settle for second best. Renters, regardless of the amount of rent they pay, do not put down roots in the community. They are less likely to vote or to be involved in community affairs. They just move on. My main concern is the lack of deceleration lanes. The Halpern Associate response to my concerns was the municipalities no longer tended to require decel lanes. However, the City of Smyrna has decel lanes at the new Kroger, Publix at East-West Connector, and even the Krispy Kreme. Publix and Kroger have islands to prevent misuse of these lanes. These are an undeniable necessity. They have to be there to make it safe. Without properly placed and fitted decel lanes on both Atlanta Road and Spring Roads, there will be a massive traffic backups on both roads, with traffic blocked even at green lights. As with any project of this size, safety should be the foremost in the minds of the developer. Frustrated drivers can easily become dangerous drivers, and traffic tie-ups deter business. Such a project should be an asset, not a detriment. I noted with interest the wording of City Engineer's recommendations on page 6 for completion of the multi-use trail. Modifications of the Spring Road and Lower Atlanta Road access point to the right in, right out, associated intersection improvements for the Church Street light, dedication of right-of-way for the trail. This wording should be in the stipulations, not just a recommendation. I have a question. Does this recommendation include a left turn signal and an island at Church Street? This question needs to be answered. The engineer also stated the applicant plans to modify the existing facility and further states that he believes that it will meet the city's standards. However, the latest site plan still delineates the facility as approximate detention pond. How does one review an approximate detention pond? Referring to the stipulations, number 3, Exhibit A, area plans questions have not been resolved and won't be until after any approval. How does one quantify this stipulation? Number 4 refers to elevation and renderings. Have these renderings been made available to the public in a timely manner? Number 6, the plaza area at the corner plans are still under consideration by staff. Should not the public be aware of these plans in advance of any decision? Number 26, referencing a bike sharing station. What is the location and appearance, and would the facility rent bikes? Again, the public should know what these facts are. Number 30, exclusions. I would suggest the following wording. B, no adult book and novelty stores, period. E, no convenience stores, period. X, no package stores, period. And I would suggest a new exclusion of money transfer facilities. I respectfully request that you consider these comments in your deliberations. Thank you.
Ms. Barnes, real quick.
Yes.
You gave no adult book, no package. What was the other one?
Convenience stores, period.
Convenience.
And the
exchange.
money
Thank
transfer.
you.
And where do I sign in?
I've got it right here. I'm cheating tonight. There's one down there.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, where? Oh, okay. Well, nobody else used it, so okay.
Thank you, Ms. Barnes. Good evening and welcome.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and address for the record.
Pat Albazuris, Navajo Trail, Creekwood Forest.
Can you spell your last name for me?
ALBIZURES.
Thank you very much.
Yes. And I've lived here for like 29 years. Love Smyrna. Can you tell me how much parking space is in that 6 feet or that 6-level parking thing, or even the parking spots around there?
The number of parking spaces in the deck, we can get that answered for you.
Okay. And the Kroger or Publix, has that been determined? What type of grocery store is going in there?
It has not been determined. It is all that's been said is it is a grocer that is in our market.
That's in our market. You mean like locally or something?
Yes, ma'am.
It could be a Walmart grocery store, those little small ones.
I don't know. I can't speak to that.
Okay. The restaurants, do I see like there's like 3 buildings for restaurants? I see the orange buildings. Are those the restaurant commercial?
We'll get the applicant back up here and detail the restaurants for you as well, okay?
Okay. Is there any, well, I don't know if that parking deck's going to stay, but is there, I mean, I don't like the apartment issue, just to voice my opinion. Is there any way that the parking deck can be connected to the grocery store?
That's a question we can ask.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Albazuris. Did I get it right?
Yes.
Thank you. Helps the spelling, you know?
Yes, it does.
Good evening and welcome.
My name is Christy Anderson. It's Kristi Anderson.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson.
I live in Creekwood at Vinings. I've been a homeowner there for 17 years. While I understand that this has already been approved and zoned partially in 2007 and 2008, my concern is that as a realtor here in Smyrna, I've watched this economy change dramatically since that time. To say that what would have been appropriate in 07 and 08 is now appropriate in 2015 is a big concern. And maybe it's my ignorance on how you all work, but it seems that there should be some consideration of just because that's what was approved then, that doesn't mean that's what works now. And my big concern is the traffic. I see it every day. It backed up for me trying to get here from here all the way to my subdivision and past it in the afternoons. You add 300 more homes, and it's going to be unbearable, and people are not going to want to live here if we don't figure out a way to handle it. It's going to be just unbearable. And I hope you take all of that into consideration.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Anderson.
Thank you.
Good evening and welcome.
My name is Jean Martin. I live at 3435 Lee Street.
Welcome,
I've been a
Ms. Martin.
Smyrna resident for over 50 years, and I'm like Ms. Anderson before me. How can we, in 2000 and 2007 and 2008, say that that's still a good zoning for today? I mean, what was good 5 years ago is not good today. What was good 2 years ago, as far as Concord Road, is not the same. There are changes every day. How can we do all this flip-flopping of approving something in 2007 and 8, denied in 2013, and then come back in 2015 and say, oh, okay, we'll jump over 2013, go back to 2007 and 8, and zone it. We do need retail space here. There aren't any places to shop. Okay, if you're going to put apartments in there, that's rental space. Retail space is rental space too, and to me, retail space rent's going to be a whole lot more than apartment rent or rental space. So why couldn't we come up with more rental there? Another thing that I don't understand, you mentioned early on shared parking agreement. What does this mean? That people, if they're going to the grocery store, they can go over and park where the in the parking deck that belong to the apartments? Also, you can't say how many parking spaces you're going to need for a grocery store. To me, there's not going to be enough adequate parking space for, if you've got a grocery store and other retail space for this area. And needless to say, I don't approve it as the way it is. I just see one great big traffic jam. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Martin. Anybody else that would like to come forward? Okay. Uh-oh, we got a sleeper. That's all right. I'm just for the record, I'm timing this, right? So we're at 36 minutes, and based on my clock, Mr. Moore gets 26 minutes to come back up here and try to pitch this again. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
Welcome.
There was always people coming up. I never got up. Stephen McQuaid, 1555 Roswell Street, over in Williams Park. I'll just make one comment, then the rest are kind of just questions that I guess they can come up or staff can answer. And one is I was fortunate enough to be in meetings with Williams Park, a few people in Williams Park and staff members and Branch back when that plan was being reviewed. And I think apples to apples, this is a much better plan. I think people who are complaining about traffic, which will be one of my points, need to realize, in my opinion, that more retail would equate to more traffic. So we need to take that into consideration. So yes, the rush hour peak times with the apartments will generate a lot of traffic, but during the middle of the day, I don't think it will be as bad with only 3 retail spots as opposed to a full-blown shopping center. But with that said, during those meetings, and Ms. Anulowicz was there as well, and I kept hammering the point, this is our one opportunity to get the look. She kept saying this is our entry point to the city, to get the look good, because like somebody else said, this is what we're going to get, hopefully for the next 30, 40, 50 years, and not be looking at what it was when I moved here 10 years ago with the dilapidated shopping center of the old Jonquil Plaza. So with that being said, I hoped that whoever the developer was would try to incorporate the look of Woodstock or Vickery or something to make it look like it was when Smyrna was first here, well before I lived here, and what retail there was before it was turned down. So along those lines, does the Urban Design Commission, did they only look at the site plan or the elevations given, or did they take into consideration what they really want the city to look like? I think the elevations are, for the most part, are good, but it looks like your typical everyday newer upper end shopping center. We could have a lot worse, but from an architectural standpoint, I know the grocery store you're not going to, you're kind of limited there, but from the retail spot, it would be nice to see maybe an older look. I feel good about Halpern. He's invested in the community. He's invested in Smyrna Elementary. I think they've got skin in the game as far as that goes, so I don't think they're just trying to get out with the cheapest product. So I will commend them on that. I think they've got a lot to lose if they don't do a good job. As far as the apartments, again, I realize there's a need for apartments. We do have a lot of new ones being built. I hope in turn they won't turn out like the ones surrounding the elementary school that have gone in decline and cost the city so much in 911 services and the such. But I guess one thing would be with the elevations of those, will you recommend the highest grade of materials that these apartments stand the test of time? Because it's my understanding that Wood Partners builds, manages, but then typically might, and they can speak to sell their properties off. So that's my concern is down the road when somebody else takes over, and will it be maintained to the level it will be when they're built. As far as the elevations of the retail, it looks like it, but I want to make sure that both front and rear from the Spring Road or Atlanta Road side and the parking lot side, are they fully functioning on both sides, and is that demanded by the city so it doesn't turn out to be a shopping center like the one where the Body Bar is and there's a new Taekwondo store, that the parking lot is in the back, you enter from the back, and you see the back side of everybody's retail store, and makes it very unappealing. And the last point would be, as far as the traffic goes, Mr. Randall and I are well versed with each other. We've been working on stuff for our neighborhood for quite a while, and I did find some facts in that study that seemed a little inaccurate, that it said this is a smaller project, therefore the traffic would be less impactful. And I would argue with that, because back when that was built, Belmont had not been developed with all the residential it is. At the end of my street, there's 300 brand new apartments down by the Marine Depot, as well as 76 homes across the street from me. None of those were even on the table when that last plan was recommended. So for the most part, I think this is a good plan. Like I said, elevation-wise, I wish it was a little more historic looking, since it's our focal point. But I think the city needs to really examine the traffic impact and what they're really going to do between the railroad crossing and adding this light, and the impact it will have during rush hour. So, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. McQuay. We already closed questioning. No, I'm joking. Come on. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that.
I really didn't want to speak tonight anyway. I was supposed to watch this from the comfort of my home in my PJs. And when it didn't come on TV, I decided I had to change clothes and come.
We do that. We're tougher than the mayor and council. We make you get out of the house. Welcome. State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Sandra Hembry. I live on Westwood Lane, south and east of the city of Smyrna. I have, point of reference, I have lived within 10 miles of where we are tonight for 90% of my life.
Wow.
Now, you won't call that a little bit boring, but we moved off and we decided that family and friends were here and it was good here. So why didn't we come back? Okay, I was a resident of Smyrna for 14 and a half years. And there's a couple of things that I feel like I need to say, and that is having grown up in Cobb County schools in this area, having had children that grow up in this area, and now I have grandchildren in schools for Cobb County. The one reason that Cobb County has said over the years that they would not put any extra money into the schools in this area is because the transiency of the residents of this area. There were too many apartments. I told them that was not a reason to give us a good quality education. But for quite a few years, it has gone on deaf ears. And I have no problems with apartments other than it has cost this part of Cobb County to have not the advantages of other schools in the other parts of Cobb County. And I think that is a disgrace. On this particular site, if I remember that when the other plans were approved, the residents said we wanted a designation where residents of this area could come and eat and shop and dine. You've heard that again tonight. And I have to tell you, I am, to verify the fact that I am old, I remember when Belmont Hills opened the first time, okay? And I can describe it the first time, and I can describe plenty of shopping times there, and I can tell you where the different stores are and everything. We need a destination to go shopping of various things. Belmont Hills had a hardware store, it had a drugstore, it had a movie theater, it had a bowling alley. We had a lot of different things that we could go. And without that, this was when money was tight, really tight. And people didn't go out unless it was for needed recreation, okay? I would like to see really at least condos in this area. I would like to see more shopping. I would like to see more dining. I want to see a whole lot less traffic because the only reason why I would be glad that there's going to be a grocery store there is as I age, I could get another bicycle and I could pedal my way to this grocery store because the hills are flatter. Or should I say, or the hills are not as high, okay? Because that's why we have the multi-purpose trails, is because one day the traffic is just going to be stopped from light to light to light. Yep. And we're planning ahead. It's just that we fail to recognize it. I'm looking forward to this site being active again. As everybody said, we're not looking forward to slowing things down in traffic, because for the next couple of years, just moving around here is going to be extremely difficult. Thank you for listening to me, and I appreciate the good job that you do. Real estate is very important, and it determines a lot about the area. Thank you very much.
You're absolutely right, Ms. Embry. Thank you for your comments. Good evening and welcome. Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Tony Walker. I live in Westchester Commons. I've been a 20-year Smyrna resident and Atlanta native. After listening to these wonderful citizens talk about the things they need from you, and I want to say that I respect the fact that this hearing is not exactly to revamp the current plan that's going in there, but I'm going to ask that. I'm going to ask you respectfully if you can go back and look at this again and let the mayor and the city council also be involved in this. That's probably not impossible. It probably would have some angst with a number of people to do that, including Halpern, which I respect. But as a realtor here and as a former AT&T executive, I do believe that we need to make this a place where people will come and want to be in Smyrna. The Braves are coming in a couple of years. If they come, people come down the road from the Brave Stadium and see Smyrna, maybe they want to see a world-class place to live. And it would be great to have high-end condos there. If you could do townhomes, fine, but I understand that may be a problem from a space standpoint. You can't do separate housing, I understand that. But you can make that a world-class destination that Smyrna could be very, very proud of. If we don't have shops, like some people said, if we don't have places to come, like some people said, Halpern could also benefit by saying that they have built a world-class place and probably get more business in other locations. I don't know the business people there, but I'm certain they would think that they could get more business by having the citizens of Smyrna say they have a wonderful place to come to, as opposed to, well, you know, it's got a Publix and it's got the apartments. I also agree with the nice lady about millennials. They'll come and go. They won't vote. And in this political environment that we're in today, we need people to vote. So if you can, respectfully, Mr. Powell and fellow ladies and gentlemen of the board, rethink this, I think you'd have a lot of citizens, not just in this room, but all over Smyrna, congratulate you on looking at this again and trying to get a world-class destination, what I call a wow. and the traffic is horrible on Atlanta Road. I don't think that will change much. So if you can, fine, but at least I've asked that and that's on the record. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. All right. At this time, I'd like to ask the applicant.
You got time for one more?
One more, but tonight you got to promise that you only get one chance. You can't do it twice tonight, okay?
Okay. I'll put my seniority on you here in a minute.
Please don't.
I've been listening to the comments here.
Please state your name and address.
My name is Al Graves. I live at 1079 Pinehurst Drive.
Thank you,
Ward
Mr.
4.
Graves. Welcome tonight.
I'm a 60-odd year resident of Smyrna. So I must have found something I like here. But I have a point of confusion here. I remember in the year past that we had a meeting very similar to this about apartments in Jonquil, and we hashed that out. It went through, and if memory serves me correctly, you people rejected it, and the council also rejected it. And the interim passed, and I picked up from the comments you made that there's an existing permit for 300 apartments on that property. And where did that originate from, and where did that come from? And if that's true, why was the apartment complex refused a year or so ago when we had a similar type meeting down here? I'm at a loss on that. And if apartments were not the answer to Jonquil Park at that time, why are they suddenly the elixir for that area now? It's been commercial for the bulk of the 60-odd years I've been here. It functioned and done very well till the business went flat. And now why is it going to necessarily become a predominantly residential area with all the traffic, what they've already added in Belmont Hills, 270-odd apartments. And my colleagues have already indicated we've got in excess of 500 down there. And if I remember correctly, back in the 7 and 8 area, when they built the piers down there, it was more or less going to be primarily a commercial area, and they were going to have this piggyback apartments on top where the owners would occupy them and that sort of thing. And in short, let me say this, and I don't know that this 300 apartment thing can be countermanded, but that is a worst possible idea, as I said at the previous hearing, for that particular area. We have no commercial. Apparently, the mayor and city council has decided that anything of any magnitude in the commercial line is not acceptable for the city of Smyrna and or this area down here. And after you occupy that real estate, there's nothing else left in what Smyrna downtown consists of. And if you build something as elaborate as they're talking about down there, the apartments and so forth, you're not going to go down there in the near future and demolish those buildings and put commercial in there, which Smyrna desperately needs to be a functioning city of 50-odd thousand people. So could somebody give me a update on how this 300 apartment approval exists from 2007? And if so, why was it denied at the previous hearing? For the 200, it was 200 and something, and I hope y'all have looked at the possibilities of traffic congestion. Some of the people have already alluded to that, having in excess of 500 apartments within a mile of what we used to call the downtown business district in Smyrna, that's now becoming residential. I've talked out. Has anybody got any answers?
I'm just trying to let you talk.
Huh?
I just want to make sure you got everything out this time before we start answering your questions.
I
That's
got
all.
more. I
know you do. That's why we're giving you an opportunity.
Because, as I say, I want to reiterate my statement that I made at the other meeting. I can't think of a worse use for that particular plot of land than 290 apartments. And with that, I close.
Thank you, Mr. Graves. And you all, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, Mr. Graves. He's a good sport, and when he comes up, he gets to speak, but only one time a night.
Neighbor, let him go ahead. I've trained this boy.
I speak to him 3 times a week.
We're not going to let you speak if this counts as his second turn, okay? No, I'm joking. No, come on up. Please state your name and address for the record.
Tim Rieksecker, 1115 Pinehurst Drive.
Spell that for me.
Last name or the street?
Last name.
Okay. Spelled Riegsecker. Okay. And
Thank you.
I have to agree with a lot of the people that have been before me. One of my concerns, and I've brought it up with the council, is the city seems to be going from a commercial to more of a bedroom community. And that concerns me because some of my experiences, I have real estate in other states, and one of the cities I have it in, they've gotten kind of this direction where they've gone to more housing and apartments, and now taxes, they've had to keep raising taxes because they had no tax base, and that's one of my concerns. And I have not studied this design completely. I've just seen excerpts from in different stages, and I'm not familiar with really what's going in there now as far as the total plan, because I've heard, and that's I guess a little bit my concern, because are we going to one day be where if you live on the south side of Windy Hill, people aren't going to move there because you're going to be paying another $200 a month in taxes versus if you live on the Marietta side of Windy Hill. And now is the time we need to be making those decisions as far as what is going to be right for the city. And I know I'm talking about money, but what is right for Smyrna, and and when you get into the apartments that have been brought up, you get the transient people. They're going to have no investment in the community other than for the year or two that they're here. And you know what I mean? And we need to bring people in that are going to be here long term, and bring retail, so that some kind of retail or something to bring in, the people, especially like the Brave Stadium was brought up and everything else. Anyway, I kind of threw. Is there anything else? Any questions or anything you want to say?
That's it. Thank you very much for your time. All right. At this time, we try to let everybody come up and speak, and we've been going at it for nearly an hour. So hopefully you've all got the chance to voice your concerns. And what I'd like to do now is have the applicant return and try to answer some of these questions so that we can all be clearer on what's going on. But to Mr. Graves' question about an existing permit, that is not what I said. I said it's currently zoned for 300 units and 165,000 square feet of retail, currently zoned. And if Mr. Halpern wanted to come in and build that current plan, he would have to go through plan review down at planning and zoning, and there would be no hearing. There would be no oversight other than what would go from a staff level. Okay, that's all I said. As far as permits go, that's a future item. There are no permits. Mr. Moore. We've had obviously you sat here and heard a series of questions. Do you want to try and answer any of them before we go through the list, or how do you want to do it?
I can just try to hit on a couple, and I think that I know I heard several people speak to or concerned about traffic, and I think we'll let Eric maybe on behalf of as the city engineer who has been involved in the recommendations in his report explain. I don't want to explain Eric's job or explain his work, and let him do that, and I think that's an appropriate way to handle those issues, and if we can add to that, we certainly will. I think when it comes to generally speaking, the traffic impact has to be measured not from the amount of traffic that's being generated from that site today, which is zero. Traffic impact has to be measured from what could it be developed for today versus what is being proposed today. And certainly what is being proposed today is less of a traffic impact than what it could currently be built for today. Now there's a lot more detail that goes with that, with the traffic improvements and road improvements that are going to be paid for, constructed, and installed by Halpern Enterprises if this project goes forward, that Eric can speak to. But that includes a new traffic light. It includes accesses and entryways and features that incorporate what the city of Smyrna has already started as far as the trail system and its sidewalks. But I think as a general statement, from a traffic impacts standpoint, the comparison has to be correct, and you have to compare actually apples to apples. On a couple of other points, I just want to answer as best I can, and then certainly we'll answer whatever questions that we miss or that you have. A lot of what I've heard is a concern or a complaint that this needs more retail. And what I don't seem to hear is the fact that what we're proposing is over 65,000 square feet of retail, which is significant. That is a significant amount of retail on a 12-acre site. It's a significant amount of retail to inject into a downtown area that doesn't have that today. The grocery store component of this cannot be, and that's why I started with that in my opening presentation, because I knew it would be overlooked and understated. That's a 44,000 plus square foot grocery store. You want to have a vibrant downtown, put a known grocery store of over 45,000 square feet in downtown so that people have a place to come downtown and they don't have to go out. They can come in. That's a significant retail presence. What's a significant retail presence additionally is the almost 18,000 square feet of retail that'll be located as street frontage retail and street level retail at the intersection of Spring and Atlanta Road. Both of those retail components that you see on the site plan, they kind of frame that intersection where the plaza is located, have two proposed restaurant sites as part of that on the corners that'll have rooftop seating and those types of amenities to it, that'll really set off that intersection as a place to come, as a place to gather, and as a place to come downtown Smyrna, as well as other attendant retail stores. Ken did a great job of outlining for you and put them up on the screen what types of retail shops are not allowed, which are McDonald's, and which are some of the ones that I heard people complaining about, we've already agreed will be prohibited there. This will be a high level of quality of retail that will be put in here if approved and going forward. There's also a separate standalone restaurant site at the other end or the top end of this screen as you look to it. So there are ample opportunities for quality restaurant, quality dining that'll essentially be sit down or quality serve restaurants that are here. And again, the concept of this site needs more retail. Well, it used to have 100% retail, and it failed after a long period of time. It was very successful. I used to shop at Jonquil Sporting Goods too. We can all tell stories going way back. But over a period of time, retail changes, housing patterns changes, retail economies change, and the economics of retail changes. And what this site plan, though, represents is an opportunity to have retail downtown. Real, legitimate, quality retail, which is highlighted to me by over a 45,000 square foot known grocery store. That is retail and significant in and of itself. Some of the other questions that were asked, as opposed to just simply concerns, I did want to say somebody had asked about the number of parking spaces that are contained within the structured parking that's part of the multifamily. That's 464 spaces that are in that structured parking.
464 spaces in the parking structure.
Yes. Also, one gentleman asked about the proposed leasing rates for the multifamily. They will across the you had the various percentages of 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom, but those will average $1,500 per month across the entirety of those. So you have different leasing rates given the bedroom and the size, but they will certainly average about $1,500 or more per month per unit, which is a significant and demonstrates a high quality leasing rate for multifamily. Those were a couple of the specific questions that I had that I could address at this point in time. But again, the last point I want to make, and then I'll open it up from my standpoint at least to any other questions that I may have missed, because I know y'all were writing notes down as well, and we can bring the right people up to answer those. But I heard a lot of concerns or questions that really were aimed at the folks that want to have their cake and eat it too. And I do too. That's my favorite position to take. I want the cake and I want to eat it. But the fact of the matter here is that the plan and the zoning that was approved in 07 and 08 had these land use components, and that issue was settled. And I think that that's been acknowledged. And that issue was settled at that point in time. That plan contained with it, though, what was it, approximately $26 million tad of public money in order to complete that project. It was the only way it was doable, only way it was feasible. And that went away as well. This project is one that doesn't involve the tax dollars of the citizens of Smyrna sitting behind me. If we want to talk about tax dollars, the tax dollars this generates is tremendous, given that it's all private investment. So this is a plan of how you bring a downtown grocery to Smyrna and do so in a viable, high-quality manner and fashion. Retail follows the rooftops and follows people. Bring people to downtown in the form of multifamily, quality multifamily aimed at the right types of markets. And the quality retail follows right on the heels of it. And I think that the folks from Halpern will tell you that each and every day. With that, as I said, I'm available to answer questions, and the various consultants as well as the principals of Halpern are here to do so as well as the principals of Wood Partners can answer any questions as well.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Before we ask any questions of you that might get answered by Mr. Randall, can you mind coming up and speaking to some of the traffic issues and that kind of thing, and then we'll come back and review any of the questions that any of us may have for the applicant or staff.
I'm happy to. And for the record, I am Eric Randall, the city engineer. I'll start with what the process was, and this was a project that got started well before my time at the city. But it went through what's called the DRI, a Development of Regional Impact process. The project, as it was originally proposed, exceeded thresholds in aggregate for residential and commercial space. That throws it to an ARC, Atlanta Regional Commission administered process, wherein they look at existing conditions, existing traffic base. They look at a horizon, usually a 20-year horizon, assume a % traffic growth, and I'd have to look back at the report. I don't have that number here tonight, but what the assumed growth volume is, and compare a no build versus what's proposed, and then various measures that are site driven, what needs to be improved in order to accommodate that. So the answer to the question about, well, Belmont wasn't considered at that point, not specifically, but increased traffic volume was. I can speak more directly to a more recent project, which is the Brave Stadium. They've had to do a DRI. That's what's driven a lot of decisions about where lanes should be added or where intersections should be redesigned.
Oh, Eric, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No.
But you just went over a real important question about the traffic study.
Sure.
Could you go back to what you were commenting about Belmont being considered? So it was considered, it was not considered with this traffic study?
Belmont in its current configuration would not have been considered.
Would not have
been. Because it wasn't imagined at that point. Okay. At the time this was done, what was going on with that.
Okay.
But base traffic growth on the roadways would be considered. So they're not going to look at Atlanta Road as a static traffic or Spring Road as static traffic. They're going to assume a growth rate. And they is the consultant who put the plan together. The city didn't put the plan together. Their traffic engineering consultant, the original developer's traffic engineer.
Okay.
We did not revisit the DRI for this because A, it wouldn't have exceeded the thresholds that would have required a DRI, and B, this is lesser. This is less intense development. So the changes that would have been proposed for the original development as conceived, we didn't hit those thresholds as this is reduced.
Rusty, you want to add?
I do want to ask, or at least make a comment. We did contact Atlanta Regional Commission with regards to this project specifically. Sent them the use thresholds and asked them whether or not this project had to go back to ARC and Greta for review, and they came back and said no, the reduction in use does not warrant another review of this site.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry to cut you off, Eric.
No, that's very pertinent because I didn't want to leave the impression that we're making assumptions about the process.
Right.
The improvements that were recommended from that report have been incorporated in this plan. The entrance on Spring Road is a right turn in and right turn out only. It's not full access. The southerly point on Atlanta Road is also right turn in, right turn out. There is a signalized intersection at Church Street, excuse me. Full access with pedestrian signals, with painted crosswalks. Actually not painted, excuse me. I think we've got a zoning stip for brick crosswalks. So bringing that up to the standards.
Okay, and there was a question about a turning island, a turn signal island at that intersection. Do you have an answer for that?
At all of the intersections, I'm going to look at what we colloquially refer to as pork chops. These are the angled dividers to keep cars from turning how it's not intended. And actually, we had several conversations with the fire department about this because fire department wanted to make sure they had access as they felt it was easiest at any given point. So they didn't want to be constricted to going in only at the traffic signal. So we've talked about an island configuration, and this is probably a little bit of a surprise to Halpern, but something that will preclude vehicles from doing what they're currently doing at Zaxby's, which is making left turns where they're not supposed to on both approaches. We have a different island configuration, which is something that the fire department feels they can live with being able to mount that curb for a quicker response. In a truck, they can do it. In a Honda Accord, they can't. It's just that kind of a lip on the curb. Configured to preclude those left turns where it's restricted right in, right out. One of the questions was about decel lanes. Decel is deceleration lanes, and there's an important distinction between what you're looking at here versus what the examples were given on South Cobb Drive. I don't mean to limit this too much by just saying these examples on South Cobb, but South Cobb Drive is a higher volume roadway, and the warrant for a deceleration lane is based on the speed and the volume on that roadway. That's driven by Georgia DOT. South Cobb is a DOT roadway as well, and they bring in different standards. We try to adhere to GDOT standards, and I will use that for the warrant, but unless it's shown strongly that it's warranted, they're not, I don't believe they're needed here, but I will look for their engineer to confirm that during the actual construction plan review. On Spring Road, it's a right turn lane. It's not a full through traffic. On Atlanta Road, it is a through traffic lane, but it's followed up by the traffic signal further downstream.
Okay.
Regarding the traffic itself, one thing that is very different now than when this was originally proposed is that the ATMS system, the Automated Traffic Management System, is currently under construction. That will be functional before the end of the year, which gives me a lot more control over the traffic signal timing and coordination. So to speak to Mr. McQuaid's, one of the concerns about the crossover of the railroad tracks, that's actually an intersection that needs to be redesigned, and we have a consultant looking at it. But immediately, we will have it timed so that traffic will flow on Atlanta Road, allowing the traffic from that side of the tracks to cross over for those peak hour movements. And really, when we look at traffic, we're looking at peak hour movements for the primary design condition. Same idea that if it works for the worst case traffic, it should work for lesser traffic as well. But it's something that traffic is the number one thing I get calls about, and we are working to make that better. As well as we've gone into an agreement with Cobb County for the entire Spring Road corridor to move traffic through that area through an adaptive timing, which will move traffic through that corridor as traffic builds much more efficiently than it currently does. bear with me. I'm just looking at a couple of notes. There was a comment made requesting that it be a stipulation that a left turn signal go in for Church Street. Part of my review of the traffic signal design will look at what those signal warrants are. Is there enough left turn volume based on the oncoming traffic? My gut feel is yes, there is. I don't know that it needs to be a stipulation because that's part of design, but I would put it to the applicant to add that, voluntarily add that as a stipulation. Yes, we will add a left turn light if it's warranted by MUTCD, Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Device warrants.
All right, Eric, you've got to spend the rest of your time speaking without using any more acronyms.
No TLAs? 3-letter acronyms? Let me shift gears a little bit from traffic and talk about another couple of engineering issues. First off, the bike sharing program was mentioned. I was told actually by Steve Ciaccio, the director for the parks, that the 3 of the 4 proposed bike sharing stations were being installed today. This is a separate action that council's already taken to adopt the bike sharing program. And as that gets traction, more locations will be considered. I gotta believe this is one of them. This is the middle of one of the major intersections. So, shifting gears still further, detention pond. You're right. You look at that little corner and detention. That's not adequate detention for this entire site. Through conversations we've had leading up to this point, they're talking about an underground detention system under the fire lane that backs up to the railroad tracks. But that's conceptual at this point. Detention will have to meet the city's requirements, our ordinance requirements, for water quality, channel protection, and peak flow reduction. And that's really at the nuts and bolts level during construction plan review. They have represented ways of addressing this that I'm confident this plan has room for. They're not going to try to fit it in afterwards.
How have they performed? Sorry, I'm getting dry mouth. How have they performed at Belmont Hills with regard to stormwater management?
Belmont Hills is a bit of a different animal because they've got several different facilities, but the David Weekley portion has 4 or 6 8-foot diameter corrugated steel pipes buried in a bed of gravel. Works great. I've looked at it downstream where it crosses through the school property. I'm not seeing sediment load. I am seeing reduction in peak flows. On the other side, on the apartment side, there's the existing detention pond was rebuilt behind it. You can see that from Belmont Connector, and that provides peak flow reduction for that north half of the development. They have several different facilities for water quality which feed into that, meaning water gets cleaned and then it's held on site until it can go downstream.
And you're comfortable that working with the applicant that a proper system can be designed and implemented on this site because of the size of the space we're working with?
Yes, and that's background from when I was a consultant. Just suppose they found that pipe didn't work. There wasn't enough room for that pipe. Well, they've got room under the parking deck. They can bury a concrete vault.
Okay.
There's a number of technologies they can employ to make detention work for this site. It doesn't have to be an open pond.
Okay. Is that it?
That's it.
Any questions for Mr. Randall while he's standing here? He charges to come back. No? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Randall. Appreciate your comments. All right. Any questions for the applicant from the board to have him come back before we make that 4-aisle walk? No? Okay. All right. I don't often opine on these items, and I'm not a fan of apartments like many of you, but that's not what we're here for tonight. I think Mr. Moore said quite clearly that we hear a lot of people, a lot of comments with respect to downtown shopping, stores, those kind of items, and I think he answered it correctly as far as any study I've ever seen, that you have to have the rooftops to bring in the shopping. Now, I live down here, and I do shop at what is here. I do go to the restaurants and frequent it, and it's an effort. Sometimes you pay a little bit more for it, but it's one of the things I enjoy about being able to walk to the Market Village. While I don't think that this is the plan that I would create, it's not my money. It's not my ideas at stake here. And I would be terrified to see 165,000 square feet of retail in addition to 300 units at this intersection. I travel these roads every day. I do believe this is a significant improvement from the most recent plan that we've been that was presented to us, which was essentially an apartment complex with a couple of out parcels. I agree with many of the comments here that we've got traffic issues, and that unfortunately comes with living in any desired place. Sorry, I'm trying to read my notes as we sat here, and hopefully we've got everything answered as far as the questions. But with that being said, I'd like to entertain a motion. I've got a motion from Mr. Kemp.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the amendments to modify the currently approved site plan and building elevations, zoning request Z15-014, and I'd like to attach the Urban Design Commission recommendations dated August 10th, 2015, as well as staff comments.
Got a motion for approval, Mr. Kemp. I got a second, Mr. Seagraves. Please vote. You got to sign. No, there you go. For the record, I did not vote for Mr. Whittington. The application is approved 4-3. Thank you for coming, guys. Really appreciate the time you've taken. All right. The next item on our agenda is zoning case Z15-003. We've got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. Why are they leaving? 003. It's the rezoning of the subject property from R15 to RAD conditional for the development of 6 single-family homes. It's a 1.31 acre land lot, 592 1514 Hawthorne Avenue. This zoning request is to be tabled. Can we get a motion to table? A motion, Mr. Roberts. Second, Mr. Lightfoot. All in favor? Somebody's missing. Seagraves. The item's tabled 7-0. All right. Next item, rezoning case Z15-004. It's rezoning from R20 Cobb County to RAD conditional Smyrna for the development of 17 townhomes. Excuse me. This is 980 and 990 Pebblebrook Road.
Make a motion we table Z15-004 till September 14th, 2015.
Motion, Mr. Rice. Second. Mr. Seagraves. All in favor? Please vote. It's approved. It's tabled 7-0. All right. The next item on our agenda is zoning request Z15-012. It's the annexation, rezoning, and zoning amendment for the construction of a 250-unit independent senior housing development. It's a 4.8 acre tract at land lot 691. This is 4840 and 4788 Hanson Drive. This item is to be tabled at the request of the applicant as well.
On zoning request Z15012, I make a motion we table it to September 14th, 2015.
Motion to table, Mr. Rice. Second, Mr. Roberts. Please vote. All right. The next item on the agenda is an actionable item. This is the zoning request Z15-015. It's approval of a zoning amendment to modify the currently approved site plan and building elevations on 1.61 acres at land lot 634. This is 1680 Roswell Street. Mr. Martin.
All right.
Background, please. Sorry.
This is a zoning amendment request to modify the currently approved site plan and building elevations. You guys will hear it tonight, and then it'll go to mayor and council and be acted on September 21st. The property location is 1680 Roswell Street. It's approximately 1.61 acres in size. The property has been mainly developed. They've constructed the first phase, which is an 8,553 square foot grocery store. The applicant is not requesting a change in the zoning or a change in the land use for the site. They're merely asking to change the size of the building and the number of uses allowed within it. This property was rezoned back in November 20th, 2006 by a vote of 6-1. It was rezoned from office distribution to neighborhood shopping conditional, which is a site plan specific zoning. So that's why we're here. They're planning on changing that plan. The zoning proposal provided for a 15,000 square foot retail center. The retail center was planned to accommodate 6 retail stores and a food store and 2 restaurants. That, as I said before, the applicant has developed the first phase, which is the grocery store, and is now coming back to develop the second phase. The applicant is proposing to construct 6,131 square foot addition onto the existing food store. In addition, they're going to add 2,550 square feet of multi-tenant building to be able to service for restaurant space. That brings the total square footage of the retail shopping center up to 17,232 square feet. So that's an increase of approximately 1,200 square feet. The 6,000 square foot addition for the store, per the applicant, will basically provide for additional retail space and additional storage space. He'll be able to bring stuff that he is storing off site currently and be able to bring it into one location. In addition, the 2,500 square foot multi-tenant building will serve as retail / restaurants, and it'll be able to accommodate rooftop dining on the roof. Here's the zoning map and the future development maps. These maps are not changing. As you can see, it's in a small commercial area just off Roswell Street in Hawthorne and Matthews. This is the currently approved plan. As you can see, the building fronts on Roswell Street. It has parallel parking on Roswell Street, and then it has the remainder of the parking around the side and rear of the building. These were the approved building elevations. This is the proposed plan. The hatched area is the existing building that's built today. The white area that's attached to the west is the building addition, and then at the corner is the 2,500 square foot multi-use building. These are the proposed building elevations and floor plans for the development. So he's going to keep the same material and architectural style and continue it on. This is the building as it stands today. The bottom right-hand corner is the area that's proposed to be developed. Community Development recommends approval of the rezoning request to modify the site plan and the building elevations from zoning case Z06-48 with the following conditions. Number one, all utilities within the development shall be underground. Number two, the development of any streets shall conform to the city's standards for public right-of-ways. Number three, no debris may be buried on any lot or common area. Number four, the developer will comply with the city's tree ordinance. Number five, all landscape plans must be prepared and stamped and signed by a Georgia registered landscape architect. Number six, all open space and common areas are to be sodded and landscaped. Number seven, the retention pond shall be placed and screened appropriately to be unobtrusive inside and outside the development, and that detention pond shall create at least a 20% reduction in a 2-year to 100-year storm event. Number 8, a 10-foot sidewalk shall be constructed along Roswell Street. Number 9, a 10-foot landscape buffer shall be provided and maintained along the eastern property line. Number 10, any proposed dumpster shall be surrounded by a 3-sided brick enclosure with an opaque gate in front. The brick shall match the color of the material used for the commercial buildings. Number 11, this has been a modified condition, but the commercial building shall utilize 4-sided brick or stone elevations, which shall generally match the elevations submitted on July 22nd. Number 12, the applicant shall incorporate windows or shadow boxes along the northern and eastern facades of the food store and multi-tenant building. Number 13, no neon or flashing signs shall be permitted. All freestanding signs shall be monument style. Number 14, the applicant shall remove the existing billboards on site within 90 days of the approval of the rezoning. Number 15, the proposed development shall maintain the following setbacks: a front of 0, a side of 30, a street side of 0, and a rear setback of 0. Number 16, the following uses shall be prohibited: automotive sales and repair, automobile wash service, boat sales and repairs, boarding and breeding kennels, dry cleaning plants, farm equipment sales and service, lumber, hardware, and other building material establishments, mobile home and travel trailer sales, motorcycle sales and service, pawn shops, adult novelty stores, package stores, service stations and terminals for bus and rail passenger service, taxi stands, theaters, tattoo parlors, video and arcade game parlors, massage parlor, pool hall, and check cashing store. The construction of the project, or number 17, the construction of the project shall be based on the site plan submitted on July 22nd, 2015. Any significant change to the site plan requires approval of the mayor and council. Number 18, the applicant shall remove the parallel parking spaces labeled 1 and 2 on the site plan dated October 6, 2006. The applicant shall make the modifications to the site plan and address all stipulations stated above. Number 19, the applicant shall dedicate the necessary right-of-way to the city needed to complete the roundabout road improvement plan for the intersection of Hawthorne Avenue, Matthews Street, and Roswell Street. A lot of these, as I said, these were carried over from 2006 rezoning case. The site's been developed, so a lot of these stipulations are already in place. The few stipulations that we modified are to address his changes. We've added stipulation 19 because we are in the process of planning for a roundabout in that area, so we need the right of way to be able to accommodate for that. With that being said, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Martin? Can you just highlight at the end of the presentation the differences between this plan and the plan that's been approved?
Let me see if I can go back.
Sorry.
With regards to the location of the building, it's not a significant change. You are increasing the size of the building by 1,200 square feet, and you're reducing the number of tenants down from, I want to say it was around 8 down to 3. His business is expanding. He's doing good business. He needs a space to be able to expand and accommodate that business. So he is adding on to the building to be able to accommodate his building. In addition, he's providing the 2 tenant spaces to be able to maintain the original intent of the previous zoning. So with that, is there anything else?
Any other questions for Mr. Martin? All right. Thank you, Rusty. At this time, we'd like to ask the applicant to come forward and tell us a little bit about your plan. Welcome. Please state your name and address.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
And please speak into the microphone.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Christopher Obwefi. I'm the owner of KC Fusing in 1680 Roswell Street. Right now, before we moved to our present location, we are located at directly opposite the new location, which is 1687 Roswell Street. We opened that business about 25 years ago, and then we had grown the space. We have to buy the property across the building. When we bought that property, it was about 4 little buildings. There we have to demolish it and then redesign to what you saw there. And since we moved in there 3 years ago, and since then our business has been doing fine. And then we decided to do the phase 2. In phase 2, we needed more space for our business, and that's the reason why we requested the increase on the space. And then we have to add 2 retail outlets, which trying to address some of the neighbors' concern. One is something like a coffee type of where people can come in and sit down, relax, and knock on stuff. So we decided to, in fact, that design was put forward by my son. He's a young guy. He visits downtown every time. So he wanted us to have something like sitting place on top of the the roof, so that people can come in and maybe in fact, we're trying to see if possible to get a quality tenants, and to that junction we're giving to marketers to market it, maybe something like personally I'll probably pizza, like something like Caesar Pizza or something like that. But anyway, I don't know which tenant, but everything will be according to the marketer that will bring. But our specification is going to be that it's going to be a quality tenant, because personally I don't want to have anything to do with the marketing there, because the grocery section we're doing fine there. So that was, and to help us and also the neighbors, because they requested that. And without saying much, that's why I contracted the architect Sonia Mohammed. She's the architect, and then she was the one that designed the first phase, and then I think she did pretty much a good job in doing it. So I would like if it will be approved as she designed.
Thank you very much. Any questions? And did you say that you had been across the street for 25 years?
25 years, and I see my property here.
Wow. That's impressive. Well, continued success to you.
Yeah, thanks.
And thank you very much. Any other questions, Fred? Okay. Thank you. You can take your seat.
Okay, thank you.
All right, this is a public hearing. At this time, we'd like to ask if there's anyone in attendance that would like to speak in favor of or opposition to this application. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and sign the sign-in sheet at the podium.
Okay. My name is Sonia Mohammed. I'm with Ivan Architecture, and I'm a resident of Marietta, not of Smyrna, but I'm here.
We don't hold that against you here.
Okay,
That's okay.
good. I just wanted to point out a couple other features that the property is going to have. One of the things that we're trying to do, I'm happy to find out that they're going to build a roundabout, but we wanted to add a fountain and maybe some greenery also to the property, just to make it a little more inviting to the community. So that's just something else I wanted to just add to that.
Oh, very nice. Thank you, Ms. Muhammad. Rusty, do you know about that? About the addition of the fountain? Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Is there anyone here that would like to come forward? Please state your name and address for the record and sign the sign-in sheet.
Steve McQuaid, 1555 Roswell Street. Just two quick questions. Is the point there showing the land that there would be taken by the city to do the roundabout? Is that what that's showing, or is...
Not at this time, no.
So the point would be smaller than what's depicted?
The point will be smaller, and that's a conversation we're going to have. In fact, I've got a note here to make sure I get the concept roundabout layout in prior to this so that we can coordinate those two.
And then I guess a question for the owner is, what is his plans with his existing property that's kind of fallen into disrepair? Since he moved, there's been a fire. Is he going to sell it, keep it? But his side of the street where the stores looks good, and if this helps spur on redevelopment of that whole area, that'd be a good thing.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. McQuay. Would you like to come up and tell us what your plans are for the your former store, your former location?
Yeah, one of the reasons why we increased the square footage of the new building was across the street right now we have most of the freezers that service the building across. Right.
Do you have a plan? Do you have a plan for that building going forward?
As soon as this building is finished, there will be no need for the freezers there. Then I can fix it up and lease it.
Okay.
Yeah. So
right, you're going to improve it after you move your stuff over.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. At this time, I'd like to ask for a motion. Got a motion, Mr. Kemp. Second. No, Mr. Kemp. Sorry.
That's right. I'd like to make a motion for zoning request Z150-015 to approve the modification to the currently approved site plan and building elevations.
Motion for approval, Mr. Kemp. Second, Mr. Roberts. Please vote. Motion's approved 7-0. Good luck with your project. All right. The next item on the agenda is rezoning case Z15-016. It's rezoning from R15 to RAD conditional for the development of 5 new single-family residences at a density of 3.81 units per acre. This is a 2.36 acre parcel at land lot 593. It's 1505, 1515, 1525, 1529, 1533, and 1537 Spring Street. Mr. Martin, in the background, please.
Yep. The applicant is Pradera Group, LLC. This rezoning case will be heard tonight, and it'll move forward to the mayor and council on September 21st. This is a zoning amendment / rezoning. This is incorporating a previous rezoning I think we did back in 2013 for 4 lots on Spring Street. The applicant is working with the property owners of those 4 lots. In addition, has purchased the 2 R15 lots to the west, and he would like to build 5 additional homes on those 2 lots and add them to the existing subdivision that's there. The total size of the tract with the 4 lots and then the 2 additional lots is 2.36 acres. There's currently within the whole property there are 4 single-family homes that are currently on the market to be sold. They were just constructed within the last year. The proposed use would change this from a 4-lot subdivision to a 9-lot subdivision. The overall density for the property is 3.81 units per acre. The existing zoning, as you can see, is RAD and R15. The proposed zoning will be RAD conditional. If you look at this zoning map, adjoining properties to the west and east and north and south are R15 and RAD, and they all have single-family homes on them. The future land use designation for this property and also surrounding property is moderate density residential. The 3.81 units per acre is within the allowable density for moderate density residential, which caps out at about 4.5 units per acre. This is the proposed site plan. As you can see, on the right-hand side of the screen is the existing 4-lot subdivision with the amenity and stormwater detention facility. The 4 homes front on Spring Street. The applicant is proposing to create a private drive with a fire truck turnaround that will go to the west of the existing home and run north to be able to access all 5 lots. These are the proposed home elevations. This is a picture of the subject site as it stands today. These are the pictures of the homes that are currently built, the 4 homes. Community Development recommends approval of the proposed zoning from R15 and RAD conditional with the zoning conditions carried over from zoning case Z13-008. Number 1, the composition of the homes shall include a mixture of elements but not limited to, but including brick, stone, shake, hardy plank, and stucco. Number 2, there shall be protective covenants with a mandatory HOA. Number 3, the developer shall provide at least 200 square feet of common space per lot. Number 4, the detention pond shall be placed and screened appropriately to be unobtrusive to homes inside and outside the subdivision. And the stormwater detention plan shall be designed to create at least a 10% reduction in a 2-year to 100-year storm event. Number 5, all utilities within the development shall be underground. Number 6, the developer shall be responsible for any traffic improvements deemed necessary by the city engineer. Number 7, no debris may be buried on any lot or common area. Number 8, the developer will comply with the city's current tree ordinance. Number 9, All landscape plans must be prepared, stamped, and signed by a Georgia registered landscape architect. Number 10, all yards and common areas are to be sodded and landscaped. Number 11 is a tree planting schedule for each lot. Number 12, the development shall maintain the following minimum setbacks: a front setback of 20 feet, a side exterior side of 7 feet, an interior side of 5 feet with a minimum building separation of 10 feet, and then a rear setback of 30. The development shall maintain, number 13, development shall maintain the following minimum lot size, which is 6,883 square feet. That is not the size of the lots he's proposing. That's the size of the 4 lots that are already built. That's the smallest lot that's out there. Number 14, the proposed home size shall have a minimum floor area of 2,200 square feet. Number 15, the driveway shall have a minimum length of 22 feet from building face to edge of shared driveway. And each unit shall have a 2-car garage. Number 16, the final plat for the development shall include a right-of-way dedication of 5 feet along Spring Street. Number 17, the developer shall provide a 10-foot landscape buffer along the northern property boundary in accordance to Section 503 of the zoning ordinance. Number 18, a 5-foot sidewalk shall be constructed along Spring Street. Number 19, water quality shall be provided in accordance with the city's stormwater management ordinance. Number 20, the applicant shall work with the city engineer to remedy any site distance issues along Spring Street. The applicant shall be responsible for any improvements deemed necessary by the city engineer. 21, the developer shall create deed covenants for the shared driveway in which ownership, maintenance, and utilization are the shared responsibility of the HOA. These covenants must be supplied to the city prior to the issuance of a building permit. Number 22, approval of the subject property for RAD zoning shall be conditioned upon the site plan submitted on August 6th. Number 23, the applicant shall be bound to the elevation submitted on July 10th, 2015. And 24, the approval of the rezoning is subject to the stipulations agreed upon by the applicant in a letter submitted and dated July 25th, 2013 by Garvis Sams with Sams, Larkin, Huff. If there should be any discrepancy between the stipulations in the July 25th letter and the stipulations stated above, the stipulations above shall apply. That was a carryover from the previous zoning, and all those stipulations should be applicable to this zoning as well. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Any questions from Mr. Martin? Okay. Thank you. All right, I see that the applicant is in attendance. If you could come forward now and tell us a little bit about your plan. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. I'm Mike Wadsworth. I'm representing Pradera Group as the applicant. If you hear my stomach grumbling while I'm here, I apologize. I should have known better with Jungle Village in front of me. So what we are proposing, well, first of all, Pradera Group, we're a custom home builder. We primarily operate in town Atlanta. Our homes average about $1 million. What we'd be building here would be similar in finishings to our typical product. It's more of a land value difference than it is a finishing difference. We are not a big tract builder. We don't come in and do volume product. We're a custom home builder. We do spec housing, so we wouldn't be looking to pre-sell these, but we occasionally will get a custom home that would be built on a subdivision like this as well. So what we're proposing is essentially a second phase of larger, more higher-end homes to the 4 houses that you see to the east of this, with a shared drive running up the right side of these lots here and essentially connecting to the streetscapes that are already there. So what you'd be left with is essentially a lowercase h. It is not a dead-end street. These would all tie in the the homeowners to the right would be able to leave out of our shared drive if they chose to. This concept is not a new one to this area. You've got several developments within close proximity, such as Roswell Street Commons and Bernard Lane across the way, that are all in Williams Park and share this shared drive concept. So the resulting 9 homes would be managed under one HOA. The HOA would be responsible for the maintenance of the common areas, as well as the stormwater and any maintenance to this private drive that are in the zoning stipulations. Our plan includes for this larger lot that abuts Spring Street. The home there wouldn't be larger than the other 4, but it would be different in terms of its orientation. So you would have a primary front facade that faces Spring Street with a secondary front facade that would be along the shared drive with either a side entry garage or a rear entry garage. So you wouldn't need any other driveways that are going on to Spring Street. They would all tie into the shared drive. The remaining 4 lots would face this green space common area that would be shared amongst the 9 houses. They'll range in size from 4 to 5 bedrooms, 3 to 4 bathrooms, around 3,000 to 3,200 square feet of conditioned space, and would be a mix of slab and crawl space foundations. We're definitely preferring crawl space here, so we have to do as little grading as possible, and we'll be able to preserve as many of the trees that are on the property today. We expect our sales price to be around $160 a square foot, or give or take $500,000. The exterior architecture will be a blend of craftsman and contemporary look, with all the modern conveniences of a new home and high energy efficiency ratings. We plan to invest in this additional common area space up there today. There's basically been some fescue seeding and wheat straw with a couple of trees that have been planted. This area would be sodded, it'd be irrigated, and we'd be adding either a gazebo structure or some sort of outdoor fireplace, something that the people who buy these homes will actually want to use and will be a marketing feature for us. The land itself sets up nicely from a stormwater management standpoint because it's all draining internally and towards this stormwater detention pond that's already there. We would be adding our own stormwater improvements by a combination of drain inlets along this private drive that would detain stormwater and transport it to the existing pond. Our civil engineer has discussed a plan to modify the existing pond with the City of Smyrna engineer. It's conceptual today, but it seems like it will work. We'll obviously need additional engineering, and everything will need to be approved before permit will be issued, but there is a conceptual plan in place where we would be able to add on to and use the existing stormwater detention pond that's there. We've also conducted analyses for sightline visibility from the shared drive going down to Spring Street. We'll have to do some minor grading along Spring Street. Right now you've got a berm basically raises approximately 4 feet off of Spring Street and then flattens out on the rest of the site. We'd have to shave that down by maybe 2 feet, and we'll have adequate sight line both turning to the right and to the left, as well as this fire truck modeling for life safety ingress and egress. So we've done a lot of homework on this site. I've had meetings with as many neighbors that would hear me out, as well as the city staff, and we've made modifications to the site plan prior to tonight to try to address as many of those concerns as we could. The company itself is very excited about this development. We like Smyrna. We like the story. I'm personally from Smyrna. I've lived in Cobb County my entire life, so we're not just trying to get in and make a quick buck. I still live 5 miles from here and own property in the city of Smyrna that I have for many years. So Williams Park is a special neighborhood. It's got a strong sense of communities, and we think that the families that will move into these homes will only bolster that community, as well as the surrounding area that we've been talking or hearing talked about tonight. With that being said, I ask for y'all's approval tonight so that we can get started on construction in a timely manner, similar to what we've done over on Hanby Street, which was a site plan that was approved just several months ago.
Thank you much, Mr. Wadsworth. Any questions for the applicant? Mr.
I have a question for you. So you at 3,200 square feet, $160 a square foot. You're looking at $480,000 homes. Did you say that you had some of those pre-sold? Is that what I heard you say?
No, we would go into this with the intentions of starting 2 speculatively, but usually with 5 homes, I think we would be able to pre-sell some of these before it was done. And we definitely start marketing them way before we start construction, so we would prefer to sell a few ahead of time.
Any other questions? All right, you may want to hang out a little close and get you to come back after we have citizen input on it. Okay?
All right, thank you all.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Everybody, this is a public hearing. At this time, we'd like to ask anyone that would like to come forward and speak in favor of or opposition to this application. Please come now, state your name and address for the record, and sign the sign-in sheet.
I've already signed up. Lemuel Ward. I live on Spring Street, almost directly across from that, from the development. I just had a couple of questions and clarifications. One, the last set of documents that we saw still referred in the application to 6 homes. The tree plan still referred to 6 homes, and the water and sewer letter still referred to 6 homes. And while I believe that what Mr. Martin read out in terms of conditions would take care of that, I'd like to be absolutely sure before this goes to mayor and council that all of the documents are in good form to show to 5 homes. The second thing that I'd like to see is there's 2 additional conditions. One, that there be a condition that that driveway could never be extended, even though these folks could buy that property where the driveway ends. I'd like to see a condition that it never be extended. One of the things, the traffic on Spring Street is bad enough without putting these homes out and coming forward. And the other is I'd like to see a condition about a rendering so that we actually do see what was referred to as a primary front facade facing Spring Street. We have heard that respectfully with Mr. Wadsworth. We have heard that one before. And sometimes it just doesn't come out that way. And then if you're not on it right every single minute, watching it and going down to planning and saying that they're not building it, you're not going to get it. So I'd like to see that done.
And for the record, Mr. Ward, that you're speaking about lot 1.
About lot 1, correct. I mean, that's the only lot, and I think you'll hear a lot of my neighbors, and I am a little selfish in this, that, since I live so close, I'd rather see one house across and then the 4 Mr. Brown built. I mean, I think we got our pockets picked a little bit on fit and finish with those houses, and if that one house is going to certainly be better than 3 across, but we would certainly like to see a little more in terms of guarantees about the things, about what the fit and finishes are going to look like, especially on the front house, and about what that elevation is going to look like, what that side elevation is going to look like, and then about it not going through. And I think my neighbors will have some things to say about changing lot patterning the way it is from those deep lots, and doing these kinds of things to cut these lots across and go into the back. But I don't really have a strong feeling about that, but I think you're going to hear some of that from our neighbors. This is not typically what lots in that neighborhood look like, although there has been some changes around here, but that's the one I think you've heard several times people talk about, the abuses that RAD lends itself to. This is not the most egregious example, but it is one that RAD certainly lends itself to, and here it's okay, but it's certainly not one of those where I think you always hear, oh, you'll never see this again, you'll never have another chance to use this. But this would be one that would be probably less bad than some of the other ones we've seen, especially like the 4 that were built right there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Good evening. Welcome.
I'm Todd Beasley. My mother resides at the place at 1539 Spring Street. If you look at the lot layout, that's Lot 9. Her property adjoins due east of Lot 9 in the common amenity area. We're here to show some concerns about the common amenity area, which has the stormwater drainage area, the retention pond, to make a point that the water, when it comes through the backside of any water that's on the site, this is including the existing and also the proposed 5 homes, all go to this common amenity area where there is a water retention area. Now, all this water that's captured on the site eventually finds its way to the very back northeast part of the corner of her property. And once all the water drains from the northeast corner of this property, it runs approximately 277 feet due west to Spring Street. And at the point of Spring Street, there's an underground culvert which has to stand for all the water that's coming down the existing current development upstream, and plus would be capturing all the water that's coming through here. Since Mr. Brown did the 4 homes and then did the common amenity area with the water retention things, there has been some water discharge that's come down through it, but it's got to the point where the water gets up to the very edge of the creek that runs along the whole face of her property, 277 feet. It currently has not gone over the creek bank, but it's just a matter of time if you start winning more water into this area. More water, even if it's under some type of timely discharge, will eventually cause more volume of water to hit that creek bank, and it's only a matter of time for that more water that's coming from this type of development is going to run and cause some flooding issues on her property. Her property is not in a flood zone, but all the development that's going on around in the area, it's just a matter of time that this is going to cause some forced flooding and going to cause her basement to get flooded. And we've only known 2 times in the last, she's lived at the property since 1955, 60 years. And there's only been 2 times that we can recall that water's ever got up into her crawl space, and both of them have been induced by the culvert caved in 1969, which was, kept any water from coming down. And about 8 years ago, there was some debris that blocked the culvert area, and which caused the water to back up, and it did flood her basement then. So the water that's flowing down the creek is at the maximum capacity of what can ever withstand through the area. She's called me times when it's been raining in the last 2 years and has just expressed concerns and just saying if it just rains another 30 minutes, water is going to be coming over the creek bank. Has not happened, but when you start adding new development, more water that's coming from this type of proposed development, it's only a matter of time it's going to be coming over. We also have concerns about, here is existing development that came upon the council, like she said, I think they said before, in the year 2012. It was approved, and it was approved with understanding with the water retention that's in place now would be controlled released. You've got now a new phase. You can call it a phase, but it's really just a piggyback off another development that was already been previously approved. And I look at what the other developer had to come in and do and add a common amenity area, added some what you could call open space and green space and so forth. This development's coming in and offering nothing as more of a common green space. He just wants to go ahead and use the existing water retention area that's there, modify it, but modifying it's still going to cause some, more eventually water volume that's going to hit the back northeast part of her corner of her property. Same time, you look at it and just what are you providing extra to the area that other people don't? So, we request that the current proposal be denied. We feel there's too many issues on the existing creek where you got runoff, which is going to increase volume. The rezoning is existing, looking at existing development, and if we got questions about the common amenity area. making the amenity deeper. And we just ask for you to, we feel it advertently will affect our property, affect her property, and it will cause some flooding concerns in the future.
Thank you very much for your comments. Good evening and welcome.
Hi. My name is Mike Blackwelder. I live at 1522 Walker Street, which is just north of the original development.
You say Blackwelder?
Blackwelder.
Blackwelder. Thank
so
you, Mike.
I own the part where it says out right there. So out, and then the side property as well as the drainage area, which I wish we'd never agreed upon, but we did because it's been a nightmare. So my main proposal of this is over the past 10 years or so, we've seen 2, maybe 3 developers essentially do the same thing. They come in here and they want to put a separate private drive off of the main street, and this has happened a couple times. Jim Brown tried it. Obviously, he got turned down, and they built this. We've had a few others do the same thing. So my issue is, in the past, it seems like they've set a precedent. You guys have set a really good precedent for the Williams Park to have all homes face the main street. I know he brought up the fact that some of the other neighborhoods have rear drives, but still the homes are facing the front street. At this point, they have a private drive going completely up the side here. So first of all, you wouldn't see the houses from the side anyway. They connect both to my house as well as my neighbors' backyards. So it doesn't add any access to the main street or any really anything good towards the street. My other issue is the fire truck turnaround right there. Again, you all have in the past disallowed that or disapproved that because there's not enough room, and this is actually smaller than what we've done before. So I'm just asking you to go with the precedent you set in the past to not allow more private drives, because we've seen they can be nightmare, they can be water issues and all sorts of things. So I'm asking for that to be disapproved. My other issue is with the retention pond. So that's been another nightmare. First of all, the thing is massive as it is. It's huge. It's been a mosquito pit. It's just been awful. The part of the drainage area there, so it drains from the pit, the retention pond to the creek there. We have seen flooding. We've seen so much flooding on our there's a little play area on the side. It's flooded that, as well as the neighbor's side on the other side of the creek. About a year or so ago, right after they built it, a huge flood. Everyone's backyard was just completely flooded. It's constantly backing up. There's erosion on the corner. It's just constantly filling up with erosion. It wasn't built correctly. So to add more to that, to make it bigger and deeper, I can't imagine how much more water runoff we're going to get from that. So just adding those houses, which if you look at them, are landlocked. To me, I don't see how that makes a conducive neighborhood, because you're adding separate houses. You're being backed up to houses. No one can see them. No one can access them. It just doesn't add up to the neighborhood that we're looking for and that you guys have set the precedent for. So.
Thank you, Mr. Blackwelder. Ladies first.
Amy Shea, I live on Mimosa Circle.
Welcome, Ms. Shea.
For about 25 years. Born here in Smyrna. He used, when the developer said that Roswell Commons has the same common drive. Roswell Commons does have the common drive, and we're fine with that, but it does face an actual public street. This one does not face a public street. So based on this,
when you say face a public street, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you mean the houses facing the street?
The houses are not touching a public street, and not at all. So based on that, I own a little bit over an acre. I have my driveway runs down the side of my property, and based on this proposal, I could come back to you next month and build 2 houses behind my house. And my neighbor can come back and build 4 houses behind her house just by extending my driveway. Based on this, everybody could come back and do that. Also, when they built the original 4 homes that are also not sold and sitting empty, they used the common green area for those 4 homes. So you can't use the common green area for those 4 homes and use it for these 5 homes. You only get to use it once. You've used that card. You can't use it again. The other issue that I have, house number 5, every Sunday night, is he going to take his trash can and move it all the way down to Roswell Street? Spring Street? Because where is the trash going to be picked up at? Because it's not a public street, so technically Smyrna cannot go down that street to pick up the trash. And are they going to actually come down that street with their trash cans? And then when I leave Monday morning, we're going to look at a big pile of trash cans sitting out there every Monday morning. And where do they, when they have a tree fall or a limb fall, where are they going to put their tree limbs for the city to pick those up? Because there's not a space for them to do that. There's nowhere, are they going to come and put it in front of lot number 1? So, I mean, I know he's trying to get the most bang for his buck off that lot, but having a private drive, don't have this precedence. He's using examples, but every example he gave, those houses were facing a public road where the trash man could come and pick up the trash, and the trash man could come and pick up the sticks and the limbs that do fall. This doesn't have that. And we do have flooding issues down at the bottom of this, and even though he says he's going to expand that ditch, when I build my 2 homes in my backyard, I'm going to build my little ditch out there too. And that's just not going to work. You can't keep putting more water down on somebody else. You just can't do that. Because the gentleman that was up here earlier, his mother's going to call him one day and that water's going to be in her house because it's getting close. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shea. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, thank you. Oliver Meinhold, Walker Street.
Can you spell your last name for me?
Meinhold. I'm a neighbor of Mike Blackwelder, and I fully agree with him. And in addition, I want to say that probably all this is laid out according to the code, but we can see, like the lady mentioned before, that all 4 homes are still empty, so they don't really sell well because the neighborhood is not designed for such a high density. And I assume that the same happens to the other houses too. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. I'm Casey Clavin. I live at 1475 Roswell Street.
Sorry.
I'm opposed to this application. I will speak very briefly to the points of analysis that staff uses. Number 5, I'll give the answer no. Number 6, I'll say contributes to support disapproval of this project. And number 7, I'll say this development will not conform and will be a detriment to the general neighborhood. We should be clear that this is one house facing Spring Street and 4 other houses stacked up in the backyard of that front house. This proposal represents a non-conforming lot configuration different from anything else in the neighborhood. The property does have a reasonable use in conformance with other properties in the neighborhood. The property with width on Spring Street will accommodate 3 houses facing Spring Street. Stacking the houses up in the backyard, which this application proposes, is not to benefit of anyone in the neighborhood, either in terms of the quality of life in our neighborhood or in support of property values in the neighborhood, in conforming properties where the houses face public streets. The only parties benefiting from the proposed site plan are the builder and the absentee investment property owner, neither of whom are invested in the community over the long time or term. We ask that you deny the zoning request and so maintain orderly development in Williams Park where houses front on streets, not stacked up in the backyards of each other. And I'd add that we have an adherence to the Livable Centers initiative in this town where we like walkable communities and connectivity. And when you stack 4 houses up behind one house on a private driveway, you aren't doing anything to create community or to create connectivity. In fact, you're doing the opposite. It's a siege mentality. This is a little weird enclave of people in backyards. That's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Clavin. Good evening and welcome.
I'm Keith Bentley. I live on Gilbert Street in Williams Park. And I just really wanted to second really what most of my neighbors have been saying. We really are opposed to this development and this fashion. The idea of building a street in there and having these houses face that private drive, as we noted, the 4 houses that face out on Spring there, apparently, for whatever reason, those houses were not built like we were led to believe. They're very cheap-looking houses. They're very cookie-cutter houses, and they haven't sold. And they've been sitting there for a year, and our neighborhood is one of the hottest neighborhoods in the city of Atlanta, probably. So most of the houses going up are selling as fast as they get them up, and those have been sitting there a year, and we don't want 5 more sitting there the same way. I don't know who would want to buy a $500,000 house that's facing out on a big retention pond, but it just seems improbable to me. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you much, Mr. Bentley. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. I'm Jill Wheatron, and I'm on Roswell Street, and I'm also a realtor. And I agree. I live in Williams Park. We don't have any flag lots in Williams Park right now. There's actually, I think Jim Brown lives in his own one, which is the 4th one. But the other 3 are empty. And I have shown them, I don't know how many times, but they are cheaply made, more so than the rest of the things that are going up in Williams Park. And I can attest everything is selling in Williams Park, and they're sitting. So if anything is like that going in, they're going to sit, and it's just a big eyesore right now. I don't like the fact that it's a private drive. I don't like the fact that they really will become an enclave unto themselves and not interact with the rest of Williams Park. What is great about Williams Park is that people face the street. So when you walk and you're sitting out on your porch, there's connectivity, there's talking, there's engaging. And if like this, nobody can go down the private drive. So they won't be interacting with the rest of the neighborhood. So that I don't like. I would ask you to reject this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? All right. Any questions after the comments? Any questions for the applicant? Is everybody still awake? Okay, sorry. It's been a long night, guys. I know you guys know that, but all right. No questions? Okay. I got a couple questions. Sorry, Mike. You want to come back and let's just talk about a couple of the items your neighbors have brought up. First of all, you have conceptuals for the detention pond. Is that what I understand?
There's been a plan that has been discussed that in concept works. It hasn't been sized.
Okay.
Obviously, all of that's going to have to be done before we're going to get permits and we're going to be allowed to build here. But yeah, there's something that's been designed that would work in a way for us to modify what's there.
To modify, to increase the capacity would be another way, or
increase not just the capacity of the detention pond, but I think also you would be increasing the capacity of the detention and the piping that would be picking up water off of the shared drive and taking it there.
Okay. All right. This may be more for city staff. What happens in the trash pickup for those people down the drive?
I'm on a stretch here because I'm not the public works director. But the applicant has had his engineer do a dynamic truck turn modeling based on the ladder truck from Station 4. And the assessment is that if that ladder truck can get up there and turn around as they've shown it can, then so can our largest trash truck. Not that the largest trash truck would be serving that, but it can go up. And they are allowed to drive on private streets. They really just don't go into gated communities. It's whatever it takes to get up to where they are. We are running into a challenge in Whitfield Park where they're having to go with a pickup truck till we can get a smaller truck because of some of the alleys and where those are picked up. But those are private streets as well.
Okay, and this this site plan, and this kind of for both of you guys, the site plan we're looking at has the fire truck turnaround. Obviously, it doesn't marry up or line up perfectly with the existing driveway. Is there going to be, I mean, should this get approved, would there be modifications to improve that connection?
Yeah, it would be blended better than what the site plan shows.
Okay.
More specifically, we're not certain of what the bearing capacity is for the concrete that's been poured. So that would have to come out with a suitable concrete going down to support the 80,000-pound load of the fire truck.
The current driveway?
Current driveway. Not the whole driveway, but the turnaround area.
Okay. Oh, I understand. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Do you mind if I address some of these concerns over the 4 homes that aren't selling next door?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we're very cognizant of what's going on there, and we treat our capital very preciously. We wouldn't go and invest several $1 million into something that would just be reckless, that we wouldn't think would be marketable. The biggest issue with what was built next door is that the builder was restricted to a 41-foot wide lot. And I think even with a 41-foot wide lot, there could have been changes to the layouts of these homes that would make them more marketable. But you're handcuffed when you're stuck trying to build essentially a 30-foot wide house. It's a losing battle to begin with. Our lots are going to be 60-foot wide, and you're going to have a very modern and highly desirable floor plan just based on the width of the house. I mean, that alone changes everything. The finishings are something else. That's not indicative of what we build. I'd be happy to agree to other zoning stipulations. We're all hardwood site finished floors. We're using marble and quartz countertops, custom cabinetry. We know what it takes to sell a $500,000 house. So yes, we would be next door to this, and I would love for those homes to already be sold so that we're not having to compete with a much lower price point like that. But I mean, you can look at those, and to me, it's obvious why they're not selling and why they're going to sell for what they do sell for. And we're clearly not trying to make those same mistakes. In regards to this being a private drive, I think if you remove the common area, this green space that would be back there, then no one's going to want to buy this. But the fact that they're going to be looking out to this park, essentially, that's across from their houses, it's a game changer for the 4 houses that'll be built back behind the one that fronts on Spring Street, and completely changes this.
Okay. So the common area, the common amenity area is a planned park.
Right. I mean, right now there have been trees planted in a poor attempt at growing grass. We would be putting sod down with an irrigation system and some sort of amenity, whether it would be a gazebo or a fire pit is what we've discussed, but something for them to have as a gathering place and something that's actually going to get used.
Okay. All right. Any questions? Any further questions?
I just have one question real quick of actually Mr. Martin. I was wondering, Mr. Ward had made a point about the driveway and the termination there and some kind of stipulation where that further development wouldn't extend through there. Is that even a possibility? Did y'all look at that?
If that's a zoning condition you feel is necessary, you can add that to this requirement, and we'll carry it forward to mayor and council.
Answer your question. Okay. All right. Any further questions? Last call. All right.
Can I add one more point here? Okay, done.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm joking.
So I'm building 3 houses several hundred feet from this building right now, and if you call the agent that's on selling those houses and you request our finished spec list, he'll send you the same finished specs that we would be building here, and you can tell that from top to bottom it's 1 notch, 2 notches higher than what's built next door. We wouldn't change anything here. It's basically the same product. So I think it's more than me just coming before y'all and telling you what I'm going to do, but I've actually shown you what I plan to build, and you ask them what those homes are selling for, and they're all over $500,000. and he's got a list of people that are waiting to see our product.
Very cool. Thank you, Mr. Wadsworth.
All right, thanks.
Appreciate it. All right. With no further comments or questions, I'd like to entertain a motion. I have a motion from Mr. Kemp.
For zoning request Z15-016, I'd like to make a motion to deny rezoning from R15 to RAD conditional.
We have a motion to deny. We have a second from Mr. Seagraves. The motion to deny is approved 7-0. Better luck at Mayor and Council. Hopefully you have time to answer some of these questions going forward. Last item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. I don't know why everybody's leaving. We've still got to approve minutes. Sorry. It's approval of the minutes from the July 13, 2015 Planning and Zoning meeting. Are the board members in possession of the minutes? Any amendments or changes need to be made at this time? Got a motion to approve the minutes, Mr. Roberts. A second, right. Mr. Rice. All in favor of the minutes? They're approved 7-0. And without any further business, this meeting is adjourned at 9:05.